Chapter 1699. I Am Beating You. 3. Bailey Xianyun was not the only one knocked out by Yi Qingtang's fists, the rest of the crowd were also stunned. In the beginning, Zhan Rao had little expectations towards this battle and thought that the results were a given. But he was so shocked that his jaws had nearly dropped down to the floor. Although he still didn't think that Yi Qingtang would be a match for him, it was nonetheless a shocking sight to see the fourth heaven-level Bailey Xianyun beaten down to the ground by someone with her bare knuckles. Damn, that Yi Qing, she's so fierce. This was the first time he was seeing a female beating up someone in such a basic, crude manner. Although basic and crude, the sight of it was startling. Bailey Xianyun was already swollen and bruised all over. Even his sight was all blurry and his head was spinning from being beaten so thoroughly. He could hear the shocked mutterings of the audience. The immense shame of his situation threatened to swallow him whole. How did things end up like this? He had trained so hard these years, the sole purpose of which was to overtake Bailey Zai's #1 spot. But now, he was being publicly humiliated by this insignificant Yi Qingtang. Arg! With an enraged roar, Bailey Xianyun suddenly drew out his sword and charged toward Yi Qingtang like a bloodthirsty maniac. Not a second later, Yi Qingtang gripped Bailey Xuanyun's wrist and gave it a vicious twist. With a loud crack, Bailey Xuanyun's wrist was instantly broken. The sword was flung away and landed with its tip driven straight into the ground. Yi Qingtang. In intense pain, Bailey Xianyun dove forward like a crazed, wild beast to try and grab Yi Qingtang by the waist. He wanted to shove her toward the exposed blade of his sword. At this point, he no longer cared about showing off any fancy techniques. He just wanted to tear Yi Qingtang apart with his own bare hands. But Yi Qingtang leaped into the air and evaded Bailey Xuanyun's charging motion. With a turn of her feet, she kicked Bailey Xianyun from the back. The vicious kick sent Bailey Xianyun flying forward. His head made direct contact with the blade of his sword. Thick blood sprayed all over. The sharp sword had shaved off nearly of Bailey Xuanyun's head. White brain matter mixed with fresh blood splattered all over the floor of the arena. Like that, Bailey Xianyun died in a pool of his own blood. Unfortunately, even up till the moment before his death, he still didn't understand how he could have lost to a new fourth heaven-level fighter like Yi Qingtang. Bailey Xianyun had died, and in a most humiliating manner. Elder Bailey widened his eyes in shock as he stared at Bailey Xianyun sprawled in a pool of blood with half his head missing. He stood up and glared at Elder Qian. Elder Qian, look at what your Yi Qingtang has done. Elder Qian was also shocked. Even until the final moment, he still never thought that Yi Qingtang could be the winner. Yi Qingtang had won? Had she really won? An immense sense of joy instantly filled Elder Qian's heart. As Elder Bailey continued to holler at him, he turned calmly to face him. There's no need for Elder Bailey to be so agitated. Didn't you say it earlier? All's fair once they step foot into the arena. It's impossible to completely avoid death and injury, is it not? I can only say that your Bailey Xianyun is not powerful enough. Elder Qian had maliciously turned Elder Bailey's earlier words back at him in a way that made the latter want to throw up blood. It was a great feeling to be able to do such a thing. Elder Bailey's face went red with anger. Now that the situation had changed, Elder Qian had no time to bother about Elder Bailey. He couldn't help grinning from ear to ear. Chapter 1700. Top 10. 1. In all of his wildest dreams, Elder Qian had never expected that Yi Qingtang would win the challenge. Somehow, she had managed to secure a spot on the top 10. The Jiang family had the initial goal of having 2 members enter the top 10. Only then could they recover the humiliation of losing in the previous few martial arts championships. Jiang Yanyan's defeat had completely destroyed the elders' hopes. But Yi Qingtang had surpassed all expectations and entered the top 10. Elder Qian, it was a good decision to hand Yi Qingtang over to you. She has become so outstanding with your guidance. The other Jiang family elders all turned to congratulate Elder Qian. It was the Domain Monarch founder who had brought Yi Qingtang to Taiyuan Valley. But after the Domain Monarch founder left, the elders in the valley were all reluctant to mentor this mediocre teenage girl who hadn't started training from a young age. Like that, Elder Qian had been given the impossible task of mentoring Yi Qingtang. Her current victory was exceptionally shocking to everyone. Words of gratitude spewed out from the other elders, but Elder Qian felt rather ashamed. I had nothing to do with her current abilities, she attained them all by herself. I just taught her some basics, that's all. Elder Qian is too modest. Elder Qian shook his head with a rueful smile. It was true that he had been neutral toward the task of mentoring Yi Qingtang. He didn't completely neglect her, but he also didn't go out of his way to guide her. He never expected her to perform so well and end up boosting his own name too. Up in her searing area, Mu Ruxue was dumbstruck as she stared at the bloodied Bailey Xianyun. She remained in a trance for a long time. Never had she imagined that things would end up in this way. Bailey Xianyun had lost? Impossible. Mu Ruxue was not the only one in shock. Those who had never noticed Yi Qingtang before now realized that the Jiang family had been hiding such a talented and powerful young lady. She could defeat an opponent of a higher level than her. After Yi Qingtang descended from the arena, Jiang Yixing was all smiles as he rushed toward her. Qingtang, how naughty of you! You've been concealing your vast powers from us. Yi Qingtang didn't know whether to laugh or cry as she stared at Jiang Yixing. She had never tried to conceal anything. She just didn't like to show off. Nearby, Jiang Yiran was also smiling at Yi Qingtang. But he was mindful of Jiang Yanyun's earlier defeat and kept his elation to a minimum. Brother Yun, shall I help you back to rest? Jiang Yiran asked Jiang Yanyun. At this point, Jiang Yiran's inner mind was in turmoil. He thought Brother Yun was already the most powerful Jiang family member from the current generation, but he had lost to Bailey Xianyun. Meanwhile, the overlooked Yi Qingtang had killed Bailey Xianyun in such a manner. In that case, didn't that mean this little girl was even more powerful than Brother Yun? Jiang Yiran felt increasingly shocked as he pondered the situation. Although he was happy for Yi Qingtang, he was also worried about Jiang Yanyun being upset. Meanwhile, Jiang Yanyun didn't say anything. He just left to receive treatment for his injuries. The elimination battles soon progressed to the final stages, with 4 fighters emerging victorious. Amongst these 4, 2 were from the Qiu family. The well-known Qiu Chen and a teenage girl Qiu Ci had exceeded everyone's expectations to enter the top 10. Before the results of the elimination round, no one had even noticed her presence. Chapter 1701, Top 10, 2. In the elimination battles, Qiu Ci had displayed astonishing fighting skills. No one expected this timid young lady, who didn't even dare to look anyone in the eye, was even more ferocious and terrifying than a demon when she fought. Apart from the 2 Qiu family fighters, the other 2 were a young man from the Wu family and the Jiang family's Jiang Shaobai. With Yi Qingtang's victory, the Jiang family now had 2 people inside the top 10. Elder Qian and the others were very satisfied with this result. In this way, the top 10 had been decided and the Jiang family had managed to regain some respect. It was hard for Elder Qian and the rest to contain the smiles of joy on their faces. They were also extremely happy with Yi Qingtang's efforts. The Jiang family were in a celebratory mood, but the Mu family and the Bailey family were in turmoil. Unexpectedly, the Bailey family had lost a talented young fighter. Even more painful to them was the fact that Bailey Xianyun had died in the hands of Yi Qingtang. Meanwhile, over at the Mu family side, Mu Ruxue was crying and wailing. Still refusing to back down, she sought out Mu Ferua and demanded her to attack Yi Qingtang when they entered the mystic realm. It was very common for fighters to suffer injury or death inside the mystic realm. But Mu Ferua remained silent on Mu Ruxue's request, causing the latter to grit her teeth in anger. The martial arts championship had propped the young talents of all the various clans onto history's stage. Apart from those who were already famous, Yi Qingtang and Qiu Ci were the ones who had caught the attention of the crowd. These 2 had been completely disregarded previously, but had let everyone see their hidden power today. The top 10 had emerged and the ones chosen to enter the mystic realm were also confirmed. After just a few days' rest, they would step directly into the mystic realm. Elder Qian and the rest specially requested Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai to see them so that they could discuss the mystic realm. The mystic realm in the Island of Immortal Footsteps possesses unknown depths. You must be very careful when you enter. We are not asking for the two of you to try and gain as much as possible while inside. The most important thing is to protect yourself. Elder Qian was no longer smiling, but instead looked very stern. I wonder what the mystic realm is like? Yi Qingtang mused. Elder Qian shook his head. I don't know. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. Although the Jiang family had lost in the previous few martial arts championship, they did have some very powerful predecessors who had entered the mystic realm before. How could they not know? Elder Qian seemed to have noticed Yi Qingtang's doubts, so he continued, the mystic realm of the Island of Immortal Footsteps is very special. It is different every single time one enters it. The Jiang family members who had entered it previously compared their experiences and found that nothing was the same. So each entry is like a fresh start, no matter how many times one has entered the mystic realm. Why else do you think those people from the previous competition fought for the chance to enter once again? The mystic realm in the Island of Immortal Footsteps was also called the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm. It was like it encompassed everything in the world. It was a different scenario every time one entered the realm. Nothing could be predicted. Yi Qingtang was stunned by his words. She had struggled so hard to enter the top 10 just so she could find clues about her own mother. But now, the mystic realm she was going to enter would be completely different from the one her mother entered? How was she to find any clues then? Yi Qingtang suddenly felt that she was very tragic. Chapter 1702, Top Beauty Rankings, 1. Although I don't know what it looks like, the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm is very dangerous. You must not underestimate it. Not only that, it also offers a lot of opportunities for gain. You two must be extra careful inside and take care of each other. Elder Qian looked at Jiang Shaobai and Yi Qingtang. Death and injuries were very common inside the mystic realm. There were also countless people who have gone missing inside the realm. No one knew if they had been killed by the innate dangers of the realm or were harmed by fighters from the other clans. Sister Qing and I will take care of each other. Jiang Shaobai grinned. Right in front of all Elder Qian, he unabashedly looped one arm around Yi Qingtang's. The corners of Elder Qian's lips twitched when he saw Jiang Shaobai's brazen manner, but he quickly recomposed himself. Good. Thereafter, Elder Qian instructed Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai on some other things to take note of. Time was not fixed inside the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm. No one could predict when they would emerge. They left after listening to Elder Qian's warnings. Yi Qingtang didn't waste the several days of rest. She spent every minute and second cultivating. Bailey Zuanyan's powers were not that much higher than hers. As a result, she could just about manage him. She would probably have been annihilated if she had been matched up against more powerful opponents like Bailey Shi. These thoughts meant that Yi Qingtang did not dare to slacken off when she thought of how she would have to face the powerful Ancient Yu clan in future. Yi Qingtang was very hardworking, but some people kept interrupting her attempts to concentrate on cultivating. On the day before she was to enter the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm, Jiang Yixing and Jiang Yuran charged into Yi Qingtang's room and dragged her out, leaving a dumbstruck little white tiger behind. Damn, was this a kidnapping? Before Yi Qingtang could understand what those two rascals wanted, she had been dragged to the Island of Immortal Footsteps restaurant. The inside of the restaurant was packed to the brim. Most of the youths from the various clans had gathered inside the main hall, all engaged in some kind of heated discussion. Why have you brought me here? Yi Qingtang looked in exasperation at the two guys, one on either side of her, holding onto her arms. Of course it's for something good. Jiang Yixing chuckled. Yi Qingtang got goosebumps all over just from hearing his chuckle. Today is the release of the top beauty rankings. Previously you garnered quite a substantial number of votes over Mu Ruxue, but the past few days of the voting results have been kept a secret. So we'll only know the final results today. If all goes as expected, the top beauty of this year's martial arts championship will be you. Jiang Yuran grinned. Yi Qingtang felt her scalp go numb. She shrugged off the two guys and turned to leave. What a nuisance. She didn't have to depend on her looks to survive, all right. What top beauty? But there was no way Jiang Yixing and Jiang Yuran would let Yi Qingtang leave. They reached out and dragged her back. Let go of me, Yi Qingtang hissed. Don't go, the results will be announced soon. No harm hanging around to listen, Jiang Yixing urged cheerily. I will beat the two of you up if you don't let go right now. Yi Qingtang narrowed her eyes. Jiang Yuran and Jiang Yixing immediately let go. Having personally witnessed Yi Qingtang beat up Bailey Xianyun, they were naturally afraid of her violent fists. They would rather die an immediate death by a single stroke than get punched and kicked to a pulp. Chapter 1703, Top Beauty Rankings, 2. Yi Qingtang was about to slink off, but before she could step out, she suddenly saw Mu Ruxue and Mu Feruo leading a group of Mu family members in through the main door. She should never have stepped out of the house today. Over the past few days, Mu Ruxue's facial injuries had healed and she had specially dressed up to the nines today. Her face instantly darkened when she noticed Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang, are you leaving? Are you afraid that you will be humiliated when it is announced that you've lost? Mu Ruxue smirked. Yi Qingtang couldn't be bothered to answer the antagonistic Mu Ruxue. Although she couldn't be bothered, the two guys who had dragged her over were more than happy to retort on her behalf. Mu Ruxue, you are the one who is afraid of being humiliated, right? Just a few days ago, the number of votes for our girl was much higher than yours. You can't possibly have turned the tide in just a few days? Jiang Yuran was instantly incensed at the sight of Mu Ruxue. Every single word he uttered was dripping with venom. You are such a loser. Who are you to say anything? Mu Ruxue snorted. But Jiang Yuran was very thick-skinned. Losers can't talk? But I see that you have spoken quite a lot of words in front of our girl. What? The bruises on your face have faded and so you have forgotten how painful it was that day? You! Mu Ruxue was enraged at the mention of that incident. But she quickly curbed her anger. Forget it, I can't be bothered to talk to you. The results of the top beauty rankings will be out soon. We will see then just who is this year's top beauty. With that, Mu Ruxue glanced at the modestly dressed Yi Qingtang and said in a mocking tone, So what if you can fight? You are just a basic brute. Your eyesight is terrible. You should get treatment immediately. Jiang Yuran quickly retorted. Quite a number of people in the main hall had witnessed this little exchange rather impassively. But they were slightly shocked when they noticed one of the Mu family youths standing behind Mu Ruxue. That person discreetly nodded at them. Yi Qingtang could feel the onset of a headache as she listened to the useless squabble. However, she couldn't just walk off now as Jiang Yuran was speaking up for her. The top beauty rankings would be announced soon. Mu Ruxue and the rest diverted their attention away from the trio to await the results. I find it strange that Mu Ruxue is so confident. Why is she so sure that she will win against you? She was behind by so many votes just a few days ago. Is she unable to count? Jiang Yixing was very curious. To be honest, Yi Qingtang just wanted this entire thing to end as soon as possible. She did not care for the rankings at all. But as the restaurant servants carried out the box containing the results, her expression took on a somewhat bizarre shift. Dear all, today is the date of the top beauty rankings announcement. But a small incident happened last night. Someone opened the box containing the votes and stole them. I am very sorry. The servant spoke with a hint of exasperation. This top beauty ranking was just a frivolous thing created by the youths of the various clans to pass time. The servants just happened to be enlisted to help collect the votes and they placed little importance on the matter and so didn't install strict security on it. A huge commotion erupted at his words, but a smile appeared on Mu Ruxue's face. Since the votes are lost, there's no choice but to start all over again. But the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm will be open tomorrow and apart from the top 10 who will remain on the island, the rest of us will be leaving first thing tomorrow morning. I'm afraid there isn't enough time, one of the youths lamented. Chapter 1704, Top Beauty Rankings, 3. That's easy. We have quite a number of people here at present. Why don't we just take a vote now? Someone suddenly piped up and several others immediately voiced out their support. Damn, This sounds like a scam. Jiang Yixing was enraged. It was clearly one of the Mu family youths who had suggested a fresh vote. I pointed out just now how weird it was that Mu Ruxue is so confident. So that's why. It's because she already prepared this little scheme. I think she must have known she had lost, and so she secretly got someone to steal the votes. She dressed up so splendidly today, just waiting for this moment. Jiang Yiran smacked his own forehead. He was speechless by the lengths Mu Ruxue would go to just to get the top beauty accolade. Jiang Yiran scanned the crowd and discovered that most of the people at present belonged to the Mu and the Bailey families. The rest were all disciples who were on friendly terms with the two families as well. He immediately realized that things were not looking good for them. This had clearly been orchestrated by Mu Ruxue. Previously, the rankings had been publicly updated every day and the final results were more or less confirmed. Those who were placed at the bottom would naturally have no interest in coming to watch the final announcement. The other members of their own clans were also not interested in attending. No wonder there are so many people here today. I suspect Mu Ruxue must have made them come. Jiang Yiran gritted his teeth. Apart from the 20 or so customers who were here for lunch, the rest of the crowd were all Mu Ruxue's people. Mu Ruxue would definitely get first place if they put it to a vote now. Girl, just wait. They'll go get our friends here now. Jiang Yiran was very angry and regretted the fact that he hadn't thought of calling the others over in the first place. Never mind. I don't care about this top beauty ranking anyway, Yi Qingtang said. Do you really not care, or are you just finding an excuse because you are not as beautiful as me? Mu Ruxue asked sarcastically when she overheard Yi Qingtang's words. Mu Ruxue, you are so despicable. You clearly cheated. Jiang Yixing scolded her. I cheated? What a joke. What proof do you have that I cheated? Even if we carry out a fresh vote, it will be done right here and now. If Yi Qingtang is truly confident of her own looks, she won't be afraid of having a fresh vote, right? Mu Ruxue folded her arms smugly across her chest. Jiang Yixing ground his teeth so hard he felt he could taste blood. But Jiang Yiran just dashed out the door, all prepared to summon the other members of the Jiang family. Mu Ruxue chuckled at Jiang Yiran's disappearing profile. It won't mean anything even if you get all the people from the Jiang family over. The audience's eyes are bright and clear. They can easily tell beauty from ugliness. With that, Mu Ruxue turned and walked off. Just based on Bailey Shi and Mu Firuo's high standing, plenty of youths from the other clans were willing to vote for Mu Ruxue just to maintain good relations. As for Yi Qingtang, there were at most 20 people from the Jiang family. It was far from enough to beat the number of people on Mu Ruxue's side. The new voting soon started. As commanded by Mu Ruxue, those people wrote her name on their votes. Only those customers who were there purely for lunch. They felt that Yi Qingtang was truly more beautiful and so wrote her name. But those few customers were just a drop in the bucket. The restaurant servant counted the votes and Mu Ruxue was the clear winner. It seems like a certain person's appearance is just ordinary and common. Mu Ruxue smirked. The provocation had Jiang Yixing jumping in rage. He was itching to toss in 100 votes himself. In his life he had seen plenty of shameless people, but none of them were as shameless as Mu Ruxue. Chapter 1705. Top Beauty Rankings. 4. How could Mu Ruxue have the cheek to claim that she was more beautiful than Yi Qingtang? Was she blind? Yi Qingtang, don't forget that you will need to disfigure yourself if you lose. Mu Ruxue gazed at her high number of votes with a venomous gleam in her eye. Yi Qingtang stared at Mu Ruxue confidently and only said calmly, "You are the one who has forgotten." What? Mu Ruxue was taken aback. Jiang Yixing immediately piped up. Mu Ruxue, have you gone stupid with fear? Qingtang already said she wasn't going to take up the bet. In the end, Bailey Xianyun agreed that if she challenged him and won, the bet would be off. Bailey Xuanyun's dead body is turning cold by now. The bet is no longer valid. Mu Ruxue's face froze. She suddenly remembered this matter. But there was no way she was willing to give up such a good opportunity to seek vengeance on Yi Qingtang. This bet is between Yi Qingtang and I. What does Bailey Xianyun have to do with it? I never said that the bet is off. Bystanders' words are not counted. Jiang Yixing felt that Mu Ruxue was increasingly pushing the limits to the word shameless. Don't tell me the members of the Jiang family are all liars who break their promises? Are you all cowardly jokes? Mu Ruxue smirked. A slight frown marred Yi Qingtang's face. She was no longer interested in wasting words with Mu Ruxue. Who said my sister Qing is a liar? Jiang Xiaobai suddenly boomed out. He strolled into the restaurant and clung onto Yi Qingtang's arm as he stared at the imperious-looking Mu Ruxue. This bet is so exciting, of course we must continue it. Let's see who wins. Xiaobai. Jiang Yixing stared at Jiang Xiaobai in a daze. Did this fool know what was going on? Mu Ruxue smiled when she heard Jiang Xiaobai's words. You said it yourself. Don't regret it. Of course we won't regret it. But I worry that you will be the one who ends up regretting it. Jiang Xiaobai grinned. Mu Ruxue snorted softly. I have always kept my word. If I lose today, I will disfigure myself in front of everyone. Oh, a light scar will also be considered a disfigurement. Who can be sure you will do it properly? Jiang Xiaobai asked. All right. The winner will disfigure the loser then. Mu Ruxue immediately added. She was now suspecting Jiang Xiaobai of holding some grudge against Yi Qingtang. Why was he saying things that worsened things for her? Mu Ruxue was just itching to personally destroy Yi Qingtang's little face. You'll keep your word? Jiang Xiaobai asked. With everyone here as my witness, I guarantee my word, Mu Ruxue answered confidently. Jiang Xiaobai smiled and gazed up at Yi Qingtang. Sister Qing, I have yet to congratulate you for entering the top 10. Just as well I have a small gift for you today. With that, Jiang Xiaobai suddenly walked over to the restaurant servant. He opened his space ring and emptied a bunch of paper slips right on the table. I came to the restaurant last night as I was feeling rather hungry, and guess what I saw? There was a person sneaking around outside. I caught him and discovered something very, very interesting. Jiang Xiaobai grinned as he spoke. The restaurant servant was shocked when he saw those paper slips in front of him. They were the missing voting slips. Chapter 1706, Tasting the Consequences, 1. Mu Ruxue's face went completely pale when she saw those voting slips that had been lost and found. How did those voting slips end up in Jiang Xiaobai's possession? Mu Ruxue instinctively looked at the youth who had been tasked to steal those votes. He was also looking very grim. He clearly remembered taking those votes and burning them together with the box. How was it that those votes were not burnt? Could you please check to see if these are the missing votes? Jiang Xiaobai asked the restaurant servant, completely ignoring Mu Ruxue's stoic expression. The servant gave a start before nodding with a smile. Although they were the organizers of the top beauty rankings, they were actually only in charge of storing the votes. Nevertheless, it looked bad on them that the votes went missing. They were naturally relieved that the votes had been recovered. Jiang Xiaobai, where did you get these counterfeit votes? Even if you wish to help Yi Qingtang, you don't have to stoop so low. Mu Ruxue steadied her racing heart as she countered. We will know soon if the votes are real or fake. Jiang Xiaobai walked back to stand beside Yi Qingtang. He leaned lazily against Yi Qingtang and gave a big yawn. Each of these votes were written by a different person. Who can tell if they are real or fake? Apart from recognizing our own handwriting, no one else can ascertain the authenticity. We want to know if you secretly added in votes of your own, Mu Ruxue continued to argue. Mu Ruxue, it's good to have brains. A pity that you don't have any. Don't you know that the Island of Immortal Footsteps people will make a mark on all votes which were handed over to them? Jiang Xiaobai chuckled. Mu Ruxue's face instantly turned even paler. Worried that there might be people who would try to submit more than one vote, the Island of Immortal Footsteps folks recorded down everyone who had already voted. To make things fair, they also made a special mark on each vote. Apart from people from the Island of Immortal Footsteps, no one else could replicate that mark. The restaurant servant soon checked all votes and ascertained that they were the missing votes. Since the missing votes were found, they would have to conduct a recount. Mu Ruxue watched as her own name was steadily erased from the top. This time, the restaurant servant opened each vote in front of everyone and read out the name. Yi Qingtang's numbers soared as the counting of the votes went on. Meanwhile, Mu Ruxa's face had turned from fair to pitch black. She never imagined that her flawless plan could be ruined by that Jiang Xiaobai. Trying to gain an advantage only to end up worse off than before. This phrase describes Mu Ruxue perfectly, Jiang Yisheng commented with satisfaction as he observed Mu Ruxu's increasingly grim face. Didn't she try all means to be top? Even the heavens couldn't help her now. After the last vote was read out, Yi Qingtang was leading by a wide margin. The number of votes for Yi Qingtang was nearly double that of Mu Ruxue. It must be pointed out that Yi Qingtang's astonishing abilities during the final battles had raised her profile significantly. On the other hand, although Mu Ruxue was pretty, her reputation among the youths plummeted after they witnessed the sight of her swollen face after her fight with Yi Qingte. Chapter 1707. Tasting the Consequences. 2. Even though there were many clans that were backed by the Mu family and the Bailey family, there were other clans who were not indebted to them. It was an anonymous vote anyway, so they voted for whoever they thought was more beautiful. Cheating. Yi Qingtang is cheating. The votes vanished yesterday only to reappear in the hands of the Jiang family. You must have stolen the votes and destroyed those that did not bear Yi Qingtang's name. Mu Ruxu's entire body was stiff as she complained unfairly. Qingtang was already the winner, so why would we steal the votes unless we were stupid? Wouldn't that just make more trouble for us? And look for yourself, Mu Ruxue. Don't the number of votes here tally with the number of people attending the event? Jiang Yisheng cut through Mu Ruxu's slander mercilessly. Even without Jiang Yisheng's word, the people there could already sense Mu Ruxu's foolishness. Yi Qingtang's victory had already more or less been secured, so why would she steal the votes? Mu Ruxue, stop grasping at straws. The top beauty for this martial arts championship is none other than Qingtang. Anyone with eyes can see who is more beautiful between the two of you. I have no idea who gave you the courage to compete with the looks of our Qingtang. Jiang Yisheng spoke harshly and truthfully. He had no pity for shameless and arrogant women like Mu Ruxue. Jiang Yisheng's words stripped away the last of Mu Ruxue's facade, revealing her pale, blue face. The people around her were staring at her with disdain as well. Even though Mu Ruxue had dressed her best for today, now that she stood next to Yi Qingtang, she just looked unnecessarily garish. Yi Qingtang didn't need anything else. Her beauty was proof enough of everything. Mu Ruxue gritted her teeth as she glared at Yi Qingtang. The gazes of the people around her pricked her like 1,000 needles. She knew that her plan had been ruined and there was no way to collect herself from this mess. She lowered her face and was about to leave. However, wait. Jiang Xiaobai raised his hands slowly and grabbed the wrist of the flustered Mu Ruxue, who was looking to escape after the situation had turned on her. What do you want? Mu Ruxue asked darkly as she shook his hand off. Since we have the results, you should fulfill your side of the bet as well. Jiang Xiaobai smiled, revealing his white teeth. What bet are you talking about? What nonsense are you spouting? I'm not going to be civil anymore if you keep blocking my way. Mu Ruxue retorted with a face full of panic. She was subconsciously standing beside Mu Feruo, to use her aura to refuse to reciprocate the bet. Jiang Xiaobai narrowed his eyes as he looked at Mu Feruo, who was standing beside Mu Ruxue. He shrugged his shoulders. I knew you wouldn't keep up your end of the bet. Forget it. I don't have anything to say to someone who doesn't keep their word. With that, Jiang Xiaobai pulled Yi Qingtang out of the restaurant. The entire time, Yi Qingtang hadn't said a single word. She had no interest in the beauty rankings or Mu Ruxue, and let herself be dragged off by Jiang Xiaobai. Jiang Yisheng followed behind them. Once they were out of the restaurant, Jiang Yisheng couldn't hold it back anymore and whispered, Mu Ruxue really is shameless. I can't believe she is the sister of my goddess. It's really a pity we couldn't get her to hold up the end of her bet this time. Who said she's not going to? Jiang Xiaobai smiled slightly. Jiang Yisheng was taken aback. Just wait a little. There's going to be a good show tonight, Jiang Xiaobai said mysteriously. Yi Qingtang looked at the wicked smile on Jiang Shaobai's face. She had a feeling that Mu Rushue was about to meet with great misfortune. Chapter 1708, Tasting the Consequences. 3. On their way home, they ran into Jiang Yuran, who was on his way to help them. Other than Jiang Yenyun, who was still recovering from his wounds, everyone else had come, and they learnt from them that they had already found the votes and Yi Qingtang was the top beauty in the championship. The news made Jiang Yuran shout with joy, and they returned to their residence. Now that Yi Qingtang had helped the Jiang family regain their image, the youths of the Jiang family treated her much better. Once evening fell, the youths who had not managed to get into the top 10 would have to leave the island of immortal footsteps with their elders and return to their own clans. Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai would remain on the island and enter the mystic realm tomorrow. They would see the rest of the Jiang family off today. Jiang Yixing was crying miserable, snot and tears everywhere as he touched Jiang Shaobai all over. It was all Jiang Shaobai could do to not kick him to death. As they were arguing, they caught sight of the Mu family. A slim figure with a straw hat and a veil covering a face caught their attention. That's odd, where is Mu Rushue? Jiang Yixing craned his neck to look but still couldn't catch a glimpse of her. Jiang Shaobai rushed towards the figure in the veil and lifted his chin as his fingers twitched slightly. A gust of wind blew towards her, lifting the hat up. As the hat dropped towards the ground, it revealed the nauseating view of a face which was rotting. The various clans were all present and someone let out a shriek, attracting the attention of everyone else. Their gazes swept over and they were all shocked as they saw the rotting face. My God, what in the devil is that? How is it possible that someone so ugly exists? Oh my God, I'm about to throw up. I don't remember seeing someone this ugly in the Mu family. A few youths frowned in utter disgust. The woman shrieked and as she quickly tried to hide her face. She rolled up pathetically among the Mu family members, not daring to lift her face an inch. Is that Mu Rushue? Jiang Yixing saw that there was a jade pendant on the neck of the ugly woman. Wasn't that the pendant that Mu Rushue had on her every day? I already said, there was no way she wasn't going to fulfill her end of the bet. Jiang Shaobai smiled and lifted his eyes to look at Yi Qingtang. Elder sister Qingtang, I helped you seek revenge. How are you going to repay me? Yi Qingtang stared in shock at Jiang Shaobai's beautiful, smiling face. She suddenly remembered him grabbing Mu Ruxue's hand. Could it be Jiang Shaobai had poisoned her then? It's not easy to find beauty. Elder sister Qing, I had to spend quite a lot of effort to find it, Jiang Shaobai said as he smiled. This beauty he was referring to was a type of insidious poison. It would not harm a person's life, but would make their features rot irreversibly. There was currently no antidote either. Yi Qingtang looked at Jiang Shaobai, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Even though she was speechless, her heart still warmed. Shaobai, you really are amazing, Jiang Yixing admired Jiang Shaobai's method. Mu Rushue valued her looks greatly and wouldn't dare to leave the house ever again now that she was in such a state. This punishment was harsh enough for someone who had tried to commit murder. Chapter 1709, The Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm, 1. On the second morning, Yi Qingtang and the others from the top 10 arrived at the entrance of the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm. Jiang Shaobai stood naturally beside Yi Qingtang. The incessant yawns coming out from his mouth made no secret of his half-awake state as he stood there with his eyelids heavy. Yi Qingtang's gaze swept around. Other than Jiang Shaobai and her, there were 8 other people. 5 of them were from the top 10 of last year's championship while the other 3 were new. Please wait a little, the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm will open soon, said the old man in charge of sending them into the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm. Brother Qiuchen, I'm scared of this mystic realm, said Qiu Si, who was especially petite. Her face filled with fear and unhappiness as she looked at the entrance of the mystic realm, which was about to open. She subconsciously hid behind Brother Qiuchen, who was from the same clan as her. She felt a great sense of unease towards the unknown dangers facing her and the 8 other people from the other clans. Meanwhile, Qiu Chen looked at the nearing Qiu Ci and frowned unabashedly. He pried away her fingers clutching at his shirt and scolded her impatiently, "Go back to the Qiu family if you're so scared. Don't embarrass our clan." Qiu Ci's eyes filled with tears as she got scolded. She was just trying to get closer to Qiu Chen, only to be hurt deeply by his cold gaze. She could only stand uneasily at one side, looking at the ground as she hunched her shoulders up. Yi Qingtang's gaze swept over Qiu Ci. She had paid attention to Qingtang's final battle, and would never have believed it if she hadn't seen it for herself. This girl, who couldn't even raise her voice in front of people, had fought so viciously that even Yi Qingtang was taken aback. Barely anyone who had battled Qiu Ci could get off the arena by themselves. If they were lucky, they would escape with heavy injuries, and if they weren't so lucky, would have died in the arena. "Elder sister Qingtang, I'm so scared," Jiang Shaobai suddenly mimicked Qiu Ci. Yi Qingtang was getting a headache from all his antics, but merely stroked his head to reassure him. Qiu Chen scoffed as he saw such a different response to his similar situation, but the shunned Qiu Ci raised her head in fear as she looked at Yi Qingtang and Jiang Shaobai with a hint of envy in her eyes. "I wonder what we're going to see in the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm," Wu Xiao from the Wu family muttered, his eyes full of curiosity. "What's there to be worried about? The Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm is different every time. So what if you knew what it looked like in the past? It's going to be different when we enter today. Rather than worrying about this, shouldn't you just be prepared? Whether it's easy or hard depends on your capability." Zhan Rao crossed his hands behind his head as he surveyed the 5 new people. "Elder brother Zhan, you've been inside before and understand the mystic realm more than us. Is there anything you can tell us?" Wu Xiao asked modestly. But Zhan Rao had no patience to give them any pointers. "There's nothing much to say. The strong will have great luck inside while those who aren't good enough will just be facing their death if they enter. Actually, don't even talk about luck. Just leaving with your life is good enough." Chapter 17:10, The Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm, 2. Most of them were from different clans. Good luck inside the mystic realm was rare, and they were all competitors here. Embarrassed by the rejection, Wu Xiao fell silent. At the side, Sang Feiyu laughed lightly and said something to Zhan Rao. There was a clear divide between the 10 of them. Those who had entered the last time were all calm and collected while the newcomers were evidently uneasy. Amidst all their thoughts, the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm finally opened. "Contestants, please enter the Mystic Realm," the elder said. With that said, the 10 of them entered the Mystic Realm, anticipating what was within it, wanting to make themselves stronger. The moment they entered the Mystic Realm, white flashed in front of Yi Qingtang's eyes. Before she could regain her vision, she felt a bone-piercing chill attack every inch of her skin. When Yi Qingtang finally regained her vision, she took a good look at the inside of the Mystic Realm and froze. It was a land of crystal ice and snow. As far as her eyes could see, everything was covered in a sea of ice and snow. The ground beneath her feet was like a frozen lake, transparent and glistening in its crystal haze. The wind brought with it the tremendous cold which chilled them to their bone, sapping every bit of warmth from their body. "It's freezing!" Wu Xiao exclaimed as he rubbed his shoulders subconsciously. Teeth chattering, he felt as though he had fallen into an ice cellar. "What is this cold to us? We'll be able to withstand it with just a little spirit energy. How did you even get into the top 10? You don't even know how to use the spirit energy to protect yourself?" Zhan Rao frowned as he looked at the shivering Wu Xiao. At the same time, he released his spirit energy, trying to ward off the cold. As spirit energy emanated in waves from him, Zhan Rao still couldn't feel a shred of warmth. The cold seemed to invade every crevice of their body. Even their spirit energy could not protect them from it. "What's going on?" Zhan Rao was in shock. The other had tried to protect themselves with spirit energy as well, to the same results. This bone-chilling cold was relentless no matter how much spirit energy they released. In a few seconds, a layer of ice was already covering their eyes and ends of their hair. "It's too cold here. Even spirit energy can't hold it off." Sang Feiyu was frowning as well. She looked as though she had been dropped in an ice cellar as well, every inch of her body suffering from the intense cold. "How is this possible?" Zhan Rao exclaimed. Yi Qingtang was frowning slightly. As she looked down at her fingertips, she saw they were slowly turning white from the cold, and something strange flashed in front of her eyes. "Qiuchen, I'm scared. I want to go back." Qiu Ci was so cold her face was turning purple. Her unease swelled as the extreme cold assaulted all of her senses. "Just leave if you want to. The exit is over there," Qiu Qin, who was frozen stiff as well, said as he waved his hands impatiently. Qiu Ci walked towards the exit with full intention of leaving when she suddenly froze. "The exit? It is gone." Qiu Ci's words suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Zhan Rao looked at where the exit was in disbelief. Where the exit was previously, stood a tall mountain of ice, with no trace of an exit anywhere. How is that possible? The exit to the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm wouldn't disappear like that. This has never happened before. Zhan Rao's eyes widened. The exit had remained where it was the last time he was here. The clans usually recorded the details of the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm as well. Chapter 1711, The Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm, 3. The exit had never disappeared before. Zhan Rao punched the ice mountain in disbelief, creating a seemingly endless tunnel in front of them. But enshrouded in the frosty darkness, the exit remained nowhere to be seen. The exit is really gone. What's happening with the Immortal Footsteps Mystic Realm this time? Sang Feiyu could feel that something was amiss with the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm this time as well. The relentless cold and vanishing exit didn't bode well for them. "I can't stand this anymore. It's too cold here." Wu Xiao's face was already purple from the cold. He was ranked the lowest among the 10 of them, though he was already at the mid-stage of the 4th heaven. Even so, it wasn't enough to stave off the cruel, biting chill. "If any of you have any Dharma treasures, please use it now. This cold is too extreme and we're going to freeze to death if we don't have a Dharma treasure to protect ourselves," Sang Feiyu said darkly. They had all already ascended to the highly respected 4th heaven of the heavenly venerate realm. No one was going to believe it if they froze to death here. With Sang Feiyu's reminder, they quickly took out the various Dharma treasures they had with them. But they were all stunned as they reached for their treasures. "My flame cloak, it's gone?" Wu Xiao's expression turned ugly as he held out a dull red cloak. The once blazingly hot cloak froze immediately as he took it out. There wasn't a bit of warmth left in it. It wasn't the only item subjected to this phenomenon. They soon realized that their treasures were useless here, mere pieces of jewelry. With the inescapable cold, and now their useless Dharma treasures, these things were raining blow after blow on their gradually declining morale. Even the self-assured Zhan Rao, along with everyone else who had entered the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm before, now all had ugly expression on their faces. They had all thought that their experience would help them gain an edge over Yi Qingtang and the rest, but now they all looked like fools. "You're cold?" The little white tiger in Yi Qingtang's arms shook his ears and lifted his eyes to look at Yi Qingtang, whose lashes were already frozen. Yi Qingtang nodded. "Why don't I feel cold then?" the little white tiger asked. Rather than just not being cold, the little white tiger had not felt that the temperature was any different from when it was outside at all. How could Yi Qingtang and the rest of them look like they were freezing to death in such warm temperatures? Listening to the little white tiger, Yi Qingtang realized that it was unusually warm in her arms, as though it had completely not been affected by the temperatures of the place. She wrapped it closer to her subconsciously to warm herself up. Now you know how amazing I am, right?" "Forget it, the mighty me shall yield to you and let you warm yourself." As he declared that, the little white tiger shook his whiskers proudly. His entire demeanor was extremely annoying and deserving of a thrashing. "Yi Qingtang, elder sister Qing, if you feel cold, you can try circulating spirit energy within yourself," Jiang Shaobai said. Jiang Shaobai's reminder gave Yi Qingtang a sudden realization. She would be able to raise her temperature rapidly if she circulated the spirit energy within herself, But this method meant that she would have to do it constantly and it would also slow her down. Chapter 17:12, Alive or Dead? 1. But Yi Qingtang didn't dare drag this on any further, and started circulating the spirit energy within her body immediately. Almost at once, her body started warming up, brushing off the severe chill. Even though she was still cold, it was at least bearable for a while. Jiang Xiaobai and Yi Qingtang weren't the only ones who had thought of this idea, and the others slowly caught on and wasted no time circulating their spirit energy. Once they had warmed up slightly, they could finally take a good look at their surroundings. Under the cover of ice and snow, the entire place was covered with a blanket of white. Everywhere they looked, the stark white seemed to penetrate as far as the eye could see. Trees, plants, mountains and ground were all carved from ice. They seemed to gleam coldly, not tainted by any other tone of color. At the same time the wind roared at them, the bone-chilling cold seemingly trying to rob them of the warmth they needed so desperately to stay alive. "What's that?" Sang Feiyu broke out of his trance as he noticed something in the glacier beneath their feet. There was a dense gray spot which they rushed towards. As they approached it, goosebumps crawled over their limbs and a shiver ran down their spines. Corpses. Under the glacier was a mountain of corpses. In this cold environment, the corpses had all maintained the state they were in before they died. They had not rotted at all and looked as though they were still alive. Under their feet, the countless corpses were strewn in all directions. Among the intact corpses were broken arms and legs as well, mangled and twisted in an everlasting grave. "What's happening here?" Sang Feiyu's face was red. How could there be so many corpses in the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm? And how did they end up being frozen within the glacier? Domain Monarch Founder. Wu Xiao suddenly exclaimed as he knelt down on the ground. There was a severed head in the glacier. The head lay alone in the glacier and seemed to have some resemblance to Wu Xiao. "Wu Xiao, you recognize that man?" John Rao asked. Wu Xiao nodded. "That's the Domain Monarch founder of the Wu family, vanished mysteriously 3,000 years ago, but why is he here?" Everyone was stunned as well. They were suddenly reminded of a supreme master from the Wu family who had appeared 3,000 years ago. He had been one of the most powerful beings in the mainland. Everyone had thought that the Wu family was going to rise greatly before he vanished suddenly. "Wu Xiao, are you sure you're not mistaken? You're sure it's Wu Chou from your family?" Zhan Rao felt all of his hair stand on end. Elder Wu Chou from the Wu family had never participated in the martial arts championship, so why was his corpse in the Immortal Footsteps mystic realm? Wu Xiao shook his head. "I'm not mistaken. I've seen his photo and there's no way I'm wrong." Wu Xiao's words sent chills down everyone's spine. This mystic realm was getting stranger and stranger. It wasn't just Wu Chou. They soon noticed many other legendary people who had once taken the mainland by storm, yet had vanished when they were at their peak. Many people had said that they had gone to the second realm, but they were all frozen within the glacier now. There were so many powerful men here, people stronger than the 10 of them. But they had all met their demise here mysteriously, even when none of them had ever heard of them entering the mystic realm before. Wu Xiao was still in mourning when the eyes of the elder beneath his feet suddenly moved. Chapter 17:13, Alive or Dead? 2. Wu Xiao screamed in shock as he slipped and landed with his butt on the ice. Fear flashed across his face. What happened? His eyes just moved. Wu Xiao's teeth were chattering as he pointed at the head under the glacier in fear. The rest of them walked up to take a look but didn't notice anything amiss. "You must have damaged your mind from the fear, right?" Qiuchen said with a cold laugh. Wu Xiao looked at the head again in disbelief but didn't see anything wrong. He couldn't help but feel that he must have seen it wrongly. "Let's not stay here. There's something wrong with this place." Zhan Rao rubbed his hands together as he urged them. There was something wicked about the place and there was no way to tell what would happen if they continued staying here. They had just entered the mystic realm and the entrance had vanished. They had no choice but to continue exploring the mystic realm. As the rest of them prepared to leave, Yi Qingtang walked by them, her eyes sweeping across the corpses. Just as Yi Qingtang's eyes swept across them, something strange happened. The corpses started shaking beneath them. In the next second, the glacier beneath them shook violently as a huge crack webbed across their feet. What's going on? The glacier is cracking, quick, run. The rest of them started running as they panicked. Just as their feet left the ground, the glacier rose from the layers of ice beneath them. The lifelike corpses were all pushed out from within the ice. It hurts. So cold, save me, kill me, let me die, let me die. The moment the corpses broke out of the ice, shrill cries emanated from the dead bodies. Yi Qingtang and the other 9 who were flying in the sky looked down below them in disbelief at the rising glacier, with the myriad of frozen corpses shrilling at them with their white mouths. Are they not dead? Sang Feiyu looked at the countless corpses and then at the head of the Wu family elder. He was howling shrilly as well, his mouth opening and closing, as though he was in purgatory. But before they could fully understand what was going on, a mighty roar entered their ears. As the ice continued to break beneath them, a giant figure rose from the ice. It was a monster so enormous it was hard to comprehend. Covered completely in scales as sharp as knives, the corpses seemed to be all frozen on its back. The loud cry from the monster seemed to devastate the corpses, and their faces twisted grotesquely as their shrill cries became even louder. What is that? Wu Xiao blanched as he stared at the monster crawling out of the glacier. The monster was draped entirely in corpses, the lifelike corpses adorning it like jewelry. In an instant, they could feel the strong breath from the monster. It felt like death. Chapter 17:14. Alive or Dead? 3. Roar. The monster climbed out from the depths of the ice below them. It was huge and stood tens of meters tall. Sang Feiyu and the rest who had already flown into the sky realized that they were only flying at the height of its enormous neck. It opened its massive mouth, a large, gaping maw of rotting black. A red tongue darted out and whipped away Wu Xiao, who happened to be the closest. Wu Xiao's expression changed as he quickly lifted his hand. A beam of spirit energy flashed towards the monster's tongue. But as though it was striking a vast ocean, the spirit energy did nothing to the monster. He was quickly trapped by the tongue. The rest of them acted quickly, throwing spirit energy at the monster's tongue as well. But even the strength of the 9 of them combined had no effect at all on the monster's tongue. In an instant, Wu Xiao was swallowed into the monster's mouth. Before they could even attack the monster with a second wave of spirit energy, Wu Xiao's body appeared on the head of the monster. Save me. I'm begging you, save me. I don't want to die. Embedded on the monster's body, Wu Xiao looked up at them in fear. His eyes were filled in fear, his body covered in a layer of gleaming ice. His mouth gaped open as he begged them repeatedly. Fuck. All of them were utterly stunned by the scene in front of them. It was at this moment they realized that the corpses on the monster were all people it had swallowed. They had never vanished but had instead become part of the monster's body. The most terrifying part was that their consciousness had not disappeared. They could still see and hear, could still speak and scream, but were imprisoned in the monster's body forever. The timid Qiu Ci gagged. Someone who had just been by their side was now part of the monster. The rest of them were still in shock when the monster attacked anew. They were unable to deal with this monster for even a second. They felt as though they were just running around like crazy people. How were they supposed to deal with a monster like this? All these supreme masters before them had died. How could they possibly be a match for it? Yi Qingtang clutched at the little white tiger as she flew as fast as possible with Jiang Shaobai hot on her heels. At this moment, the scales on the monster flew out like blades in all directions, raining down on the intruders. Elder Sister Qing, watch out. Jiang Shaobai looked at the scales flying at them as his expression changed, and he quickly raised his hands. A bright light emanated from his hands. The moment it touched the scales, there was a huge explosion and a powerful wave ripped the skies open with a resounding sound that split their eardrums. Yi Qingtang wanted to help Jiang Shaobai, but the aftershock swept her away. But as she was pushed away, Yi Qingtang saw the fragments of the exploded scales turn into ice as they wrapped around Jiang Shaobai's body, encasing him in ice. At that moment, Yi Qingtang raised her hands angrily and sent out a black flame towards Jiang Shaobai's frozen body. The ice melted completely under the black flame. A wave of relief rushed through Jiang Shaobai and he smiled slightly. Chapter 17:15, The Undead, 1. But before Jiang Shaobai and Yi Qingtang could react, a huge roaring sound pierced their eardrums. Countless ice spikes suddenly emerged from the icy ground beneath their feet. Powerful winds blew past them and dense snowflakes filled the sky. It was like the whole earth had suddenly been swallowed up. Yi Qingtang could not see anything at all. She just felt an immense aura charging toward her. A mere person was no match for the raging winds, and Yi Qingtang lost all sense of direction as she was swept up by the fierce gusts. It was all she could do to steady herself and not plummet to the ground. If anything, it was like a major apocalypse had happened. Snow was everywhere and Yi Qingtang felt like the savage winds were trying to tear her apart. With this kind of snowstorm, those who were not at least a third heaven level and above would be torn to shreds. Yi Qingtang didn't know how long she had drifted within the snowstorm. As she was whipped and thrown around haphazardly, her clothes had completely frozen. If not for little white tiger continuously exuding warmth while in her arms, she would have already been frozen to death. After a long time, Yi Qingtang was finally carried off out of the storm's fierce embrace. The roaring wind died off and she turned to see a slate of pure white behind her. Frost and strong currents had taken over everything. The howling sound of the harsh, bitter wind sounded like a profound wailing from within. Damn, what kind of monster was that? Even I couldn't recognize it. Little White Tiger was still in Yi Qingtang's arms. It shook off the snow that had accumulated on its fur. Its scales were like ice and could penetrate the outside world. It looked like an ice sculpture. Not only that, it is completely undetectable when it doesn't move. Of course you can't recognize it. Yi Qingtang was panting as she tried to recompose herself. In these below-freezing temperatures, she was exerting a more than usual amount of energy. Little White Tiger twitched its ears and surveyed their surroundings. Engulfed by the violent storm, they had just thought about escaping earlier and had no idea where they were heading. They were now surrounded by ice and snow across a landscape full of canyons and gorges. I can hear something. Yi Qingtang's expression shifted. Were those footsteps? It sounded like footsteps treading across the snow and ice. She instinctively crouched down like a cat and scurried over to hide behind a mound of snow. Clack, clack, clack. The weird noises came closer and closer, and to Yi Qingtang, it sounded like bones being knocked against each other. Was that the roar of the Ice King? A curious voice suddenly rang out. I am afraid another foolhardy person has entered the mystic realm. He's so unlucky to have encountered the Ice King the moment he entered. I am afraid the Ice King is going to gain yet another notch on its belt, another voice answered. Yi Qingtang quietly peeked out from her hiding place as the voices approached. Saw two skeletons trudging across the snowy grounds, tilting their heads as if trying to listen to something. The Undead Clan. Yi Qingtang thought of the Undead Clan the moment she saw those skeletons. But on second thought, she detected something different. The Undead Clan radiated a thick aura of death, which was lacking from these two skeletons. Instead, they exuded a vibe that only living humans possessed. They were human? Before Yi Qingtang could ascertain if those two skeletons were part of the Undead Clan, the snowy mound in front of her started to move. Chapter 17:16, The Undead, 2. A giant white skeleton suddenly shook off the snow and stood up. It was nearly 3 meters tall. Yi Qingtang instinctively wanted to flee away. But before she could take more than a few steps, the giant skeleton reached out and grabbed her. Where did this little girl come from? The giant skeleton brought Yi Qingtang in for a closer look. Its pitch-black eyes were like two endless abysses staring right into Yi Qingtang. Reaching out, Yi Qingtang tried her best to force apart the fingers of the skeleton. But no matter how much strength she exerted, they remained stiff and unyielding. She attacked it with black flames, but the giant skeletons seemed completely unaffected. Roar! The giant skeletons suddenly gave an earth-shattering howl. A tremendously powerful force was suddenly barreling straight at Yi Qingtang. Paragon level. Yi Qingtang was shaken to the core by that powerful force. Panic filled her eyes as she gazed at this giant skeleton who could release a paragon-level force as and when it pleased. Old man, enough already. We have to get along with each other in future. Why are you scaring her now? One of the skeletons shook his head sagely as he watched the captive Yi Qingtang. It's been a long time since I have touched such soft flesh. Ah, so nostalgic. The giant skeleton seemed to like Yi Qingtang very much. He couldn't resist tightening his grip fondly. But to Yi Qingtang, that slight movement felt like she was being crushed to death. The two skeletons sighed when they saw the giant skeleton's doting manner. Come on, we have to head back now. You heard the roar of the Ice King just now. We can't be sure it won't come this way. You'll be swallowed whole if we encounter it. The giant skeleton shivered at their warning. It immediately hurried after those two skeletons, with Yi Qingtang still clutched firmly in its bony hand. Carried by the giant skeleton the entire way, Yi Qingtang was jolted in all directions and exposed to the harsh winds. She felt like she was about to fall apart. They soon arrived at the deep end of a canyon where a large group of skeletons gathered. The giant skeleton carried Yi Qingtang like a new toy. It had no intention of letting her go. Those other skeletons didn't express any surprise on seeing Yi Qingtang in his hand. Old man, put her down. She will be crushed to death within a day if you continue to hold her like that, one of the skeletons admonished him. She won't die here. Even if I crush her to a pulp, she will continue to live. The giant skeleton grumbled a bit, but in the end, he placed Yi Qingtang down on the ground. Regaining her freedom, Yi Qingtang cautiously surveyed the skeletons around her. You are also humans? Yi Qingtang hesitated a moment before asking. She could clearly feel that these skeletons possessed the vibe of living humans. Oh, this little girl is quite smart. We were once human, that's right. But in our current state, we are more like the undead now. One of the skeletons chuckled out loud. His jaw clattered so much that it looked like it was going to fall off any time. It was somewhat disturbing. You don't need to be so mystified. You will soon become like us. Treasure your skin and flesh as long as you can. What? Yi Qingtang was startled. Chapter 1717. The Undead. 3. You are so unlucky to have entered this mystic realm, you will never be able to leave again. You will forever be trapped here and suffer the slow passing of time, never growing old and never dying, until your flesh melts away and your blood runs dry. In the end you will be like us, turning into skeletons and remaining this way forever, living in this frosty landscape. One of the skeletons holding a heavy sword shook his head with a sigh. Yi Qingtang looked at that skeleton, but her gaze was suddenly attracted by the sword in his hand. The sword of destruction? Yi Qingtang was stunned by the sight of that sword. Wow, Qinzhua, she actually recognized your sword of destruction. Another skeleton with an iron chain hanging around its neck chuckled. You are Qinzhua? The deity of the sword of destruction, Qinzhua? Yi Qingtang stared in amazement at the skeleton. Tens of thousands of years ago in the second domain, Qinzhua was the famous deity of the sword of destruction. Legend had it that with the sword of destruction in hand, he could even slash the sun and moon in half with just one move. Yi Qingtang had heard his legendary stories when she was traveling toward the second domain in her previous life. Qinzhua's sword of destruction was the target of countless powerful practitioners in the second domain. Qinzhua had personally slaughtered millions of enemies in fierce battles where the blood ran thick as rivers. His reputation as the deity of the sword of destruction had been forged since then. But tens of thousands of years ago, Qinzhua disappeared from the second domain with the sword of destruction. Yi Qingtang had only seen the sword of destruction in pictures. Holding the sword of destruction, Qinzhua stared at Yi Qingtang with his empty eye sockets. No one could tell what he was thinking. The deity of the sword of destruction. Ha, I haven't heard this name in such a long time. If you didn't mention it, we would have nearly forgotten he used to be called by that name. Another skeleton rubbed his bare chin thoughtfully. Yuan Di, are you that bored? Qinjue snorted. Yuan Di? Yi Qingtang stared at the skeleton rubbing his chin. Her eyes were full of astonishment. You guys are the top fighters from the second domain? Yi Qingtang scanned the crowd of skeletons. There were quite a number of them bearing famous mythical weapons that belonged to the divine soldiers of the second domain. But those divine soldiers had disappeared from the second domain tens of thousands of years ago. Yuan Di said, top fighters from the second domain? Perhaps, once upon a time, but now we are just a bunch of skeletons. Why are you all trapped here? And how did you turn into this? Yi Qingtang was filled with curiosity. All these people possessed immense power and skills. How did they become skeletons trapped in this godforsaken place? Didn't I just tell you? It won't be long before you become like us, Qinjue answered. Yi Qingtang was speechless. We became like that because we stepped into the cursed sacred land. This mystic realm, Yuan Di explained. Cursed land? This was not the first time Yi Qingtang had heard of this phrase. Previously in the land of infinite demons, Jiang Yu and the rest had also been trapped in a similar place. However, compared to Jiang Yu and the rest, Yuan Di and the others appeared to have suffered a much more terrible fate. All this resulted from the original sin of humans, sigh. Yuan Di couldn't help sighing softly before he glanced at Yi Qingtang. Do you know where the first domain is? Yi Qingtang frowned slightly as doubt filled her eyes. The first domain. Chapter 17-18, The Cursed Mystic Realm, 1. The first domain was used by the true gods to imprison heavenly demons so that they could never escape. But the heavenly demons and humans formed an alliance. Humans, who once worshipped the true gods, chose to betray them and released all those demons who were trapped inside the first domain. The humans' betrayal destroyed the first domain's imprisonment of the heavenly demons. The demons regained their freedom, and many true gods died as they battled against the heavenly demons. Those dead true gods bore a deep hatred against the humans for their betrayal. Their godly souls disintegrated to form this mystic realm. This realm was woven out of the curse that the true gods cast upon the traitorous humans. No human who stepped into this realm could leave it alive. They would be trapped forever inside beyond death's reach, until their flesh rotted off and their blood ran dry and they turned into bare white bones. Even so, they would remain alive, forever trapped in this realm, unable to die even if they wanted to. They would forever suffer the torment of extreme cold and intense heat. The true gods who died, part of them turned into the freezing ice fields we are standing upon. The other part formed the scorching hot lands. These two areas exist in two extremities. Over here, you will never be able to escape the soul-crushing cold, while in the scorching hot lands, you will have to suffer an unbearably blazing heat. Yuan Di narrated the history of the mystic realm to Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang was shaken by Yuan Di's explanation. Due to the betrayal of the humans, the heavenly demons reappeared on earth while the true gods, who had done so much for the humans, ended up making the biggest sacrifice. No one would be able to forgive such a betrayal. This was originally the human sin. The curse starts from the moment a human steps into the mystic realm. The curse is already on you now. Yuan Di glanced at Yi Qingtang, as if expecting her to give up all hope. But you are rather lucky. I heard that the Ice King was stirred up just now. It is already the greatest fortune to be able to escape from him. As a skeleton, you can at least have some freedom. If you were swallowed by the Ice King, you will become part of it. Conscious with your own mind but forever trapped within it. That kind of torment is enough to cause a mental breakdown. Yuan Di patted Yi Qingtang on the shoulder with its rickety bones. Anyway, no one would be able to escape from this place. Is there really no way to leave this place? Yi Qingtang asked. Yuan Di hesitated a moment but didn't say anything. He just stood up and left. The rest of the skeletons could not even be bothered to join the conversation. They had been here for so long that they were already used to the endless despair and torment. Yi Qingtang didn't understand how the immortal footsteps mystic realm had suddenly turned into the cursed mystic realm of the true gods. If you really wish to know how to leave this place, you have to enter that cave and make your inquiry inside. Qin Zhue, who had remained silent for a long time, suddenly spoke up. He pointed at a small cave at the side of the canyon. Thank you. Yi Qingtang looked at Qingtang gratefully. But Qin Zhue just continued to sit there, using the snow to polish his sword of destruction. Wasting no time, Yi Qingtang immediately headed toward the cave. The entrance to that cave was very small and narrow. Even for someone as petite as Yi Qingtang, she had to bend over to enter. After walking a few meters, Yi Qingtang saw a wretched-looking skull placed upon an ice platform. Chapter 1719, The Cursed Mystic Realm, 2. Little girl, you must be new to this place? The skull suddenly asked. Yi Qingtang was slightly taken aback. This skull was still alive? Just as well, carry me out, I want to enjoy some sunlight, the skull commanded. Yi Qingtang was speechless. There was no sun outside. But thinking of Qin Zhue's earlier words, she went forward and put little white tiger down before picking up the skull. Then she walked out of the cave. The atmosphere outside became somewhat strange when the other skeletons saw Yi Qingtang carrying that skull outside. On the other hand, the skull was very satisfied having been brought out of the cave. Little girl, have you come to ask me how to leave this mystic realm? The skull asked. Yes. The skull chuckled. It must be that rascal Qin Zhue who told you to come. Never mind. Since you were nice enough to bring me out here, I will tell you. I must warn you that all those who tried to leave this place came to a miserable end. To this day, no one has been able to leave. It might be better if you just give in and settle down hard. The skull suddenly cried out in pain. The others didn't seem surprised at his cry. What's the matter? Yi Qingtang saw that the skull seemed to be quivering in pain. The skull trembled for some time before finally taking a deep breath. Nothing serious. It's just that my limbs are being eaten by some monster. Yi Qingtang, what the hell? I say, little girl. Stop thinking about leaving this place. Just look at him. It's because he kept trying to leave that the bones of the rest of his body were dismembered by monsters. All he has left is that skull. Although the rest of his body is separated from him, he can still feel the pain of being bitten, chewed on, trampled upon, and torn apart. There are so many monsters in this mystic realm that his body has already been split into several hundred pieces. Several hundred kinds of pain merged together and tormenting you every single second of eternity. Can you endure that? The giant skeleton snorted as he looked at Yi Qingtang with a questioning tilt of its head. Yi Qingtang's face instantly turned grim. He's right. This is the kind of risk you must bear if you wish to leave this place. Now all I have left is this skull. Are you willing to take on such a risk? The skull asked with a smile. Yi Qingtang took a deep breath. Can you please tell me how to leave this place? The skull laughed out loud. Young people are truly fearless. Since you wish to know, I will tell you. This mystic realm has 3 parts. The first is the frozen ice fields where we are at now. The other is the scorched hotlands. The final one is the cemetery of the true gods. You have to pass through the frozen ice fields and the scorched hotlands before you will find the cemetery of the true gods. You must destroy the skeleton of the cursed true god. Only then will you be able to undo the curse and leave this place. Have you gone to the cemetery of the true gods before? Yi Qingtang asked. Of course. How else did I end up like this? But even though I have gone before, I can't bring you there. The skull seemed to have read Yi Qingtang's mind, then he continued. I am already completely dismembered. Even if I manage to leave, I won't be truly human again and I don't know what will become of me. Anyway, I never wish to step foot again inside the cemetery of the true gods. Chapter 1720, The Cursed Mystic Realm, 3. At that time, he and over 100 powerful practitioners forced their way through the freezing ice fields and scorching hot lands to finally reach the cemetery of the true gods. But in the end, only this lone skull of his returned. Little girl, I warn you, just stay here. If it is really that easy to leave, why would we be all trapped here like this for tens of thousands of years? Yuan Di spoke up. Since there is hope, why shouldn't I fight for it? No matter how terrible the consequences, it will just be slightly worse off than staying here forever. Yi Qingtang could tell that this mystic realm was a very frightening place, but the thought of waiting here for eternity until her flesh rotted away to bare bones, this was something she absolutely could not withstand. Everyone in the first mainland was still waiting for her. How could she remain trapped here in this manner? The rest of the skeletons didn't comment on Yi Qingtang's statement. None of them expressed any approval. Thank you for your help. Yi Qingtang offered her thanks to the skull respectfully. Even though he was not willing to lead her there, he already told her how to leave this place. It looks like you want to change your mind. The skull chuckled. Never mind if you wish to go, just put me back in my cave. I have already seen all I want to see today. So Yi Qingtang followed the skull's instructions and placed him back in the cave. Then she picked up little white tiger and was about to leave when she found Qinzhuo standing right before her. Senior Qin, Yi Qingtang greeted Qinzhuo respectfully. Qinzhuo's pitch-black eye sockets bore into Yi Qingtang. He suddenly raised his hand and held out his sword of destruction to her. Senior Qin, what are you doing? Yi Qingtang was taken aback. This sword has been by my side for tens of thousands of years. I will never leave this place, so I am handing it over to you now. If you are able to leave here someday, please bring it to the Qin family in the second domain, and hand it over to my descendants, Qinzhuo said. Qinzhuo's meaning was clear. After all, he was already a skeleton, and even if he could leave this place, he would immediately die. The only reason he was alive in this skeletal state was because of the curse. Yi Qingtang finally understood why Qinzhuo helped her earlier. I will definitely fulfill your request if I am able to leave this place. Yi Qingtang accepted the sword of destruction and carefully placed this highly coveted weapon into her space ring. Qinzhuo nodded and turned to leave. Yi Qingtang immediately called out, Senior Qin. Qinzhuo paused. If the curse is broken, what will happen to you all? Don't worry about it, Qinzhuo replied mildly. His words made her relax somewhat. She carried little white tiger and left the canyon. After knowing the dangers of this mystic realm, Yi Qingtang was even more anxious to leave this place. If she stayed here for too long, she would probably end up becoming a bare skeleton like Qinzhuo and the others. Yi Qingtang realized that the raging winds had already simmered down when she left the canyon. What she most urgently had to do now was to find Jiang Shaobai and the rest, and tell them everything she had just learned. No matter what kind of relationship they had outside, faced with such a terrifying mystic realm, they had no choice but to rely on each other. Chapter 1721, Frozen Ice Fields, 1. Yi Qingtang spent a long time walking upon the frozen ice fields, in accordance to the skull's instructions. Icy winds continuously assaulted her body to the point that her already fair face was so cold that it had completely drained of color. If not for the warmth of little white tiger in her arms, she would probably have frozen to death. That skull had said that there were 3 areas to this mystic realm. Although he didn't point out the exact direction of the cemetery of the true gods, Yi Qingtang surmised that since she had to pass through the frozen ice fields and the scorched hot lands before arriving at the cemetery, it was likely that the cemetery would be situated in the innermost depths of the mystic realm. All she had to do was to walk in the opposite direction of where she came from. On the way, Yi Qingtang saw plenty of frozen corpses. She tried to find traces of Jiang Shaobai and the rest, but the frozen ice fields were so vast that it was near impossible to find anyone. Is anyone there? A familiar voice suddenly sounded out. That's Sang Feiyu's voice. Having been alone for so long, Yi Qingtang couldn't help being excited at hearing a familiar voice. She quickened her steps and hurried over to the source. Sang Feiyu's voice had come over from a patch of frozen trees. As she carried little white tiger, Yi Qingtang carefully navigated her way around those trees which were covered in sharp, spiky icicles. She lightened her steps. Sang Feiyu's voice sounded increasingly clear as she approached the source. She seemed to be calling out for something, and also softly humming an old tune to herself now and then. That woman still has the mood to hum to herself under such circumstances? Looks like she isn't in any danger. Little White Tiger was impressed by Sang Feiyu's light-hearted attitude. However, when Yi Qingtang arrived at the source of the voice, she saw a wide smile on Sang Feiyu's delicate little face. Those frozen, white lips were split apart in a jagged manner, and instead of a pink tongue between those lips, a bloodied, icy vine was sticking out. "Is there anyone who can come and accompany me?" Sang Feiyu's voice sounded out once again. But this time, Yi Qingtang was not at all inclined to step forward. In her arms, Little White Tiger widened its eyes at the sight, and it nearly threw up its insides. The Sang Feiyu before them was no longer human. Her petite frame had been split into 4 sections by an icy vine. Her limbs had been torn apart and then connected back together by icy vines which penetrated the open wounds on her body like barbed wire. Her head had also been wound back to the body. The icy vine protruding out of her lips had entered her head via an opening in her neck. "It's so cold here, who can come accompany me?" The vine in Sang Feiyu's mouth kept wriggling about. The frozen blood on it looked exceptionally demonic. "She's still alive, she is still conscious." Little White Tiger widened its eyes as it noticed the despondency and bitter pain in Sang Feiyu's eyes. Her features were twisted in pain, and it was clear that she did not intend for the words to be coming out from her mouth. She had become this icy vine's plaything, but she was still completely conscious. The disturbing sight made Yi Qingtang nauseous as she stared at Sang Feiyu, who had been a happy, chatty girl not too long ago. She watched as the icy vine manipulated the girl's broken limbs like a puppet, and how every movement caused gut-wrenching pain to Sang Feiyu. Chapter 1722, Frozen Ice Fields, 2. Sang Feiyu was clearly in extreme agony, but her lips continued to hum that disturbingly relaxed tune. Splattered across those icy vines were streaks of frozen blood. Beautiful and gruesome. Crack crack. Sang Feiyu's jaws strained as they were forced apart, emitting the sounds of bones breaking. Bloodied tears trickled down from her eyes, halted by the extreme chill before they could even fall from her chin. Yi Qingtang quietly clenched her fists. Although she didn't have much interaction with Sang Feiyu, she could not bear this morbid scene before her. "You are unable to save her," Little White Tiger reminded in a low growl, as it observed her tightly pursed lips. "I know." Yi Qingtang lowered her voice. Sang Feiyu was more powerful than her, and even she could not escape those icy vines. "Let's hurry, we have to keep going. Who knows how many monsters are in this place," Little White Tiger said. Yi Qingtang glanced at Sang Feiyu again. She suppressed the impulse she felt welling up inside her, and flew up into the air with Little White Tiger in her arms. Only by destroying the cursed true god would those souls trapped in this mystic realm be freed. Yi Qingtang never expected the first companion she would find to be in such a state. Her already heavy heart grew even more grim. It looks like she entered this place when she was trying to escape from the Ice King. Yi Qingtang nodded. Previously, she still had the intention of sharing the information she had gathered with the others. But she was not so optimistic anymore. Sang Feiyu was no weakling. In fact, she was even more powerful than herself. But she ended up in such a wretched state, tormented by some monster. She really wondered how long the others could survive. Yi Qingtang had just flown a few meters away when that icy vine tree detected her presence. It suddenly shot out countless icy vines toward Yi Qingtang. "Run!" An anguished cry resonated through the air. Yi Qingtang's heart gave a heavy jolt. It was Sang Feiyu's voice. Her final rally. Yi Qingtang didn't dare to stop. She fled with Little White Tiger in her arms. Those icy vines seemed to have latched onto Yi Qingtang's presence. Relentless, they continued flying toward her, trying their best to drag her back to make her their newest plaything. Pa! Yi Qingtang got a vicious smack in the back by one of the ice vines. A searing pain radiated throughout her entire body. She swayed from the agony and nearly fell from the sky. Little White Tiger immediately spewed a stream of white flames toward that vine. Yi Qingtang gritted her teeth in pain as she flew desperately away with the little white tiger tight in her arms. She could not stop. The ice forest beneath her feet seemed to come alive. Scores of icy vines flew straight up at her like hands from the depths of hell trying to drag her down into the abyss. She faced the constant danger of imminent death. "Save me, don't leave me behind," Sang Feiyu's voice suddenly sounded out from somewhere behind Yi Qingtang. She instinctively turned back and saw a frozen, purplish tongue stuck upon one of the ice vines. It vibrated as that spine-chilling voice drifted over to Yi Qingtang's ears. It was Sang Feiyu's tongue. Boom! A huge explosion sounded out from somewhere in front of Yi Qingtang, followed by a series of tremors which spread through the frozen forest. Before Yi Qingtang could see what was happening, an immense black figure suddenly barreled out from within the forest. Chapter 1723, Frozen Ice Fields, 3. That black figure charged straight at Yi Qingtang and she quickly dodged. But the black figure still managed to scratch her shoulder, leaving behind a garish wound so deep that the bone could be seen. The black figure then fell down to the ground and stepped upon those pursuing ice vines. It was then that Yi Qingtang finally saw clearly what that black figure was. Monster. It looked like some kind of leopard, yet its body was double that of a rhinoceros. A necklace made up of human heads hung around its neck. Those human heads had already turned into skulls, but one was still fresh and new. Qin Mo. Yi Qingtang's head was instantly filled by a buzzing noise when she saw that fresh human head. Qin Mo was one of the top 10 in the previous martial arts championship. He had also entered the mystic realm together with the rest. But as he was a quiet loner with an insignificant presence, people often forgot about him. But now, Qin Mo's head was hanging from that monster's neck. Those bloodshot eyes were still swiveling about as he stared straight at Yi Qingtang. It hurt so much. "Yi Qing, will you please stay behind and accompany me?" Qin Mo's twisted lips spewed out a continuous stream of bitter words. Why did I end up meeting such a monster? Why am I not dead yet? Yi Qing, I am in such pain, such great pain. Why wasn't it you the one who ended up like this instead? Qin Mo's bloodshot eyes were filled with a poisonous grievance. But before he could finish his words, the monster suddenly reached up one paw and tore off Qin Mo's lower jaw. Qin Mo's eyes bulged out in pain. Roar! The monster seemed to hate Qin Mo's whining. Its accessories should just quietly hang upon its neck. Taking advantage of the monster's rage, Yi Qingtang fled with little white tiger in her arms. She could not even be bothered about her injury for now. There was no time to stop. That monster and those ice vines were constantly trying to think of ways to take her life. Under the freezing cold and endless snow, Yi Qingtang poured in all her energy to escape. She was drenched in sweat from her efforts, and her sweat immediately froze the moment they seeped out of her pores. That monster and the icy vines had no intention of letting Yi Qingtang escape. They continued to chase after her, persistent and unyielding. Yi Qingtang concentrated all her strength into flying as quickly as she could. Only then did she manage to put in some distance between them. The roars and howls finally faded away after Yi Qingtang flew on for a long time. That deadly ice forest was also no longer beneath her feet. She felt like she was nearly drained of all energy, but she continued to feel the urgent need to put a little more distance between herself and that deadly place. The wound on her shoulder radiated endless waves of intense pain, but she couldn't stop. Not yet, not now. Only when her energy was nearly depleted did she start to plummet to the ground. Yi Qingtang would be fatally injured if she continued to plummet at this speed. Little White Tiger's feline eyes widened at the high speed that Yi Qingtang was falling. It suddenly leaped out of her arms and its tiny body suddenly expanded several times. It gripped Yi Qingtang's clothes between its jaws and tried to pull her back. But her clothing had frozen over and was crushed to bits under the pressure of his jaws. Like a broken kite, Yi Qingtang continued to freefall. Damn it! Little White Tiger cursed before pouncing straight towards Yi Qingtang. It reached out and pulled her into its soft fur before flipping over and landing heavily upon the icy grounds. Chapter 1724, Frozen Ice Fields, 4. Even after the heavy impact, little white tiger managed to drag itself up and gazed at the unconscious Yi Qingtang. It was all cold around Yi Qingtang. Her wound had turned purplish from the start of gangrene. She had expended all her energy and was unable to maintain her body warmth. In the frozen ice fields, a person's energy expenditure would be over 10 times higher than normal. This kind of temperature would be fatal to anyone. Little white tiger blew a stream of warm air and quickly pulled Yi Qingtang into its soft furry belly. It used its own body warmth to raise Yi Qingtang's temperature. Yi Qingtang slowly came to and felt waves of intense pain radiating from her shoulder. But a series of moist warmth helped to lessen the pain. When she opened her eyes, she saw her enlarged little white tiger carefully licking her wound, trying to prevent the flesh around the wound from turning gangrenous from the extreme cold. Seeing her awaken, little white tiger breathed a sigh of relief. Yi Qingtang's heart warmed when she saw how carefully and gently the little white tiger was using the tip of its tongue to lick her wound, so that the sharp barbs on its tongue wouldn't hurt her. "I am fine now." Yi Qingtang lifted her arm with effort to stroke little white tiger's fur. Everything in this mystic realm seemed to be vying for her life the moment she stepped into it. It had just been a short time since she entered the realm, but she felt like she had endured a long bloody battle. Retrieving an elixir from her space ring, Yi Qingtang was thankful that it was of some use. Although Dharma treasures were useless here, elixirs were still effective. Snow and silence engulfed her surroundings. Apart from herself and little white tiger, Yi Qingtang could not see any forms of life. The frozen ice fields, the scorched hot lands, cemetery of the true gods, Yi Qingtang murmured to herself. She had yet to even step out of the frozen ice fields. She didn't dare to imagine the horrors that awaited her in the scorched hot lands and the cemetery of the true gods. First was Sang Feiyu, then Qinema. In addition, there was Wu Xiao, who was swallowed by the Ice King. The top 10 from the martial arts championship had now been pared down to only 3 persons. Yi Qingtang didn't know whether the rest were still alive, or have they already died in these frozen ice fields. "Xiaobai, you'd better be okay." Yi Qingtang frowned slightly. Her greatest worry was Jiang Xiaobai's safety. As little white tiger was very big now, it was too conspicuous in such a dangerous place. Yi Qingtang dressed her wound with a simple bandage and swallowed her elixir. She then made little white tiger small again and carried it as she flew up into the sky. If she was lucky, she might be able to spot Jiang Xiaobai's figure on the way. She had no time or energy to bother about the rest. Her heart constricted whenever she thought of how that cheerful, goofy kid might die here. Harsh winds howled as white snow continued to fall. Yi Qingtang forged ahead as she tried to locate Jiang Xiaobai. But she saw nothing. Frozen mountain ranges meandered all around and silence permeated the air. This place was like a dead zone. There were no signs of life at all. Halfway along, Yi Qingtang saw a long sword stuck into a block of ice. The sword was dripping with fresh blood and a severed hand was still grasping tightly onto the handle. That patch of red blood was exceptionally garish and eye-catching against the snowy backdrop. With just one glance, Yi Qingtang recognized that the sword belonged to Zhan Rao. But there was no sign of him anywhere except that severed hand and that lone, long sword. Chapter 1725, Frozen Ice Fields, 5. The aura of death hung constantly over the mystic realm. Even the skies were not safe. Yi Qingtang could see from afar the shining stars in the sky in front of her. These lights were all gathered in one spot and were shining incessantly. A sense of foreboding rose in her throat. She quickly hugged the little white tiger and swerved toward the iceberg below her feet. She found a cave and quickly hid inside. But in the next instant, a huge shadow passed over her head. Yi Qingtang looked up quietly and saw an ice phoenix over 100 meters wide flying above her. The ice phoenix was covered in icy blue flames which fell like rain over them as it passed by. But before she could even blink, the entire iceberg had been covered in ice fire. The ice fire conveyed not a shred of warmth and only made their surroundings even colder. Yi Qingtang's teeth were already chattering before she even touched the flame. No matter how hard she tried to circulate her energy, there was no way to combat the cold at all. Just the scales from the ice phoenix were this terrifying. Yi Qingtang hid quietly in the cave, her body as cold as ice as Little White Tiger tried to warm her up as much as possible so she wouldn't freeze to death. After a long time, the sky started to darken and the ice flames gradually faded from the iceberg. It was only then that Yi Qingtang climbed out of the cave, her fingertips already purple from the cold. Wherever the ice flames had touched her body was shockingly cold and chafed painfully against her clothes. She had thought that she was safe for now but froze as she climbed to the top of the mountain. The ice flames hadn't vanished at all. They had converged to become a huge ice flame monster. The ice flame monster roared as it sensed Yi Qingtang and rushed straight towards her. Yi Qingtang felt the strong breath of the monster rushing towards her. Without thinking, she quickly grabbed Little White Tiger and streaked towards the sky. But a pair of flaming wings burst forth from the monster as it flew up as well at a terrifying speed. In an instant, the ice flame monster had caught up to Yi Qingtang. She couldn't escape. Ominous thoughts formed in Yi Qingtang's mind. As she turned back and saw the monster rushing towards her, Yi Qingtang gritted her teeth, lifting her fingers to conjure up 2 black flames, and rushed towards the beast. As the black flames and the ice flames collided, powerful waves rippled through the sky. The ice flame monster howled angrily. It knocked the black flames away and rushed towards Yi Qingtang with its mouth wide open. Yi Qingtang could feel her black flames have an effect on the ice monster. Without any other thoughts in her mind, she released all the energy she had, making the black flames around her burn even stronger. She threw Little White Tiger over her shoulder as she blocked the monster's incoming mouth with both of her hands. The ice flame monster's teeth pierced straight through Yi Qingtang's arms, the excruciating pain spreading through her entire body as it instantly tore through her skin and flesh, leaving a searing burn in its wake. Yi Qingtang's teeth broke as she gritted her teeth hard, not daring to let go. It was going to bite her arms off if she even let go a little. And that would only mean death. Chapter 1726, Frozen Ice Fields, 6. She was going to fight until the end. Yi Qingtang focused all the black flames onto her arms and directed it straight into the monster's mouth. As the black flames poured towards the monster's mouth, it trembled and bit down even harder, as though it wanted to utterly crush her arms. Yi Qingtang could feel every bit of the pain from her bones being impaled by the monster as her blood dripped continuously, yet she continued blasting at the monster with her black flames. Sensing the dire situation, the Little White Tiger got up. With its petite body, it jumped straight into the monster's mouth through the gaps between its teeth. Little White Tiger then opened its mouth and shot a jet of white flames straight into the ice flame monster's body. Bang! The ice monster covered in black flames exploded. At long last, the ice flames intertwined with black flames flew all over the place as the bite over Yi Qingtang's arms finally faded. Little White Tiger jumped onto Yi Qingtang's back as his body enlarged. He grabbed Yi Qingtang hastily with his mouth to dodge the incoming ice flames. The ice flames began taking shape again as they fell onto the ground. Cursing inwardly, Little White Tiger quickly dragged Yi Qingtang away from the place as fast as possible. Damn it. Just the scales from the ice phoenix were enough to make such a terrifying monster. And they even reformed after being split apart. How many crazy things were in this goddamn place? Going as quickly as he could, using his speed, Little White Tiger brought Yi Qingtang away from the ice flame-covered iceberg, not daring to stay another second. It only stopped to rest in a cave after it had escaped to the foot of the ice mountain. By now, its mouth was filled with the coppery taste of blood. The wound on Yi Qingtang's arm had stained its entire mouth. Little White Tiger quickly put Yi Qingtang down, looking over her arms, which had become a gory mess of blood and flesh. The only saving grace was that her bones had only been mildly fractured, not broken. If they had, she would die here. But even if that was the case, the grotesque wounds still worried Little White Tiger greatly. The monster had been covered in ice flames, and wherever it touched froze instantly. Since Yi Qingtang's arms had already been frozen from the flames, some areas had already turned purple from the cold. Yi Qingtang leaned against the walls of the cave, her face deathly pale. She braced herself against the pain and opened up her space ring to take out the elixirs. Her entire body felt like it was being ripped apart from the inside. Her wound was worse than she had thought. She had spent all her energy and only barely got rid of the ice flame monster, which was merely a small fry in this mystic realm. Regardless of whether it was the Ice Phoenix, the Ice King, or the Ice Vine monster, they were all monsters that mere humans could never even dream of defeating. There were so many powerful men from the second domain who didn't dare take one step out of the canyon because they knew how terrifying these creatures were. As someone who was only from the Paragon level, she was a mere ant in the eyes of these monsters. It's already late today. Let's rest here. You're not going anywhere, in that condition anyway. Wanting to give as much comfort as possible, Little White Tiger wrapped Yi Qingtang in his warm tummy and sighed. Yi Qingtang nodded slightly. It had been a harrowing day, and she was already completely exhausted. If she were to continue on in this state, she would definitely die. She had to rest and regain her strength before continuing on this deadly journey. Utterly drained, Yi Qingtang quickly fell asleep buried in Little White Tiger's warmth. After it sensed her fall asleep, Little White Tiger shut its eyes as well. Darkness covered the ground as night fell. In the midst of the chilling, lonely land of ice, the wind brought with it the scattered voices of the dead. In the dark, a pair of eyes focused on the woman and the beast in the cave. Chapter 1727, Being Watched, 1. Yi Qingtang didn't know how long she had slept. She kept instinctively snuggling towards Little White Tiger to enjoy its warmth. The intense pain continuously radiating from the wound hurt so much it made her scalp tingle. The massive loss of blood caused her body to feel extremely weak and tired. Luckily, before entering Mystic Realm, she had prepared a good quantity of elixirs and food rations, and Elder Qian had also given her a number of items. Although those Dharma treasures were useless here, the healing elixirs were what she most needed now. For the first time in her life, Yi Qingtang realized what it felt like to have elixirs as her meals. The monsters here are very strange. Although your wound has mostly healed, it just looks weird. Little White Tiger gazed at the groggy Yi Qingtang. Although her wound had gradually healed after she ingested a large quantity of elixirs, the newly grown skin and flesh was not soft and pink. Instead, it had a greenish-gray hue. Yi Qingtang frowned slightly as she studied her wound. She had already detected that wounds incurred over here continued to emit waves of bone-piercing chills even after healing. The surrounding flesh also experienced bouts of phantom aches she could not explain. It was like having an ice spike embedded within the flesh. Do you feel anything strange about this place? Little White Tiger gazed outside the cave. As Yi Qingtang's injuries had been too grievous, they had been hiding out in this cave over the past few days. Luckily, this cave was rather remote and no other monsters discovered them. Otherwise, it would be a one-way road to hell in Yi Qingtang's condition. Nevertheless, although the past few days had been peaceful, Little White Tiger couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It just felt like something was watching them in the darkness. Whenever it expanded its awareness to probe the area, it could not detect anything at all. But the moment it retracted its senses, the tingling feeling of being watched appeared once again. Little White Tiger told Yi Qingtang of its suspicions. Yi Qingtang's perceptiveness was not as good as Little White Tiger's. In addition, she was very weak and didn't have much awareness of her surroundings. While Little White Tiger tried to probe several times, it was to no avail. It couldn't help doubting whether it was being overly suspicious because the mystic realm was just too strange. More time passed and Yi Qingtang had recovered almost back to her normal state, so it was not feasible to continue hanging around this place like this. They would have to continue their way toward the cemetery of the true gods as quickly as possible to destroy the bones of the cursed true god. Only then could they truly escape this god-forsaken place. Little White Tiger noticed Yi Qingtang's pale face and bravely decided to head out alone first to scout out their route. It was still strong enough to run if it encountered any monsters. Meanwhile, Yi Qingtang remained in the cave to await news. She watched little white tiger leave the cave. Without its body heat, she once again felt the bone-piercing chill. Curling up instinctively, she circulated her spirit energy to maintain her body temperature. Perhaps she had expended too much energy before. Yi Qingtang's stomach started to rumble. She opened her space ring and took out some food to eat, then washed it down with some water from melted snow. While she swallowed the rations mechanically, she thought about how she could safely escape this mystic realm. As Yi Qingtang pondered what to do next, she suddenly heard footsteps outside. That noise was very light and different from little white tiger's usual padded footsteps. Chapter 1728, Being Watched 2, Sprinting into action, Yi Qingtang went on high alert. She tossed aside her half-eaten food and tried her best to merge into the shadows. That noise was definitely not little white tiger. What on earth was it? At this point, Yi Qingtang had yet to fully recover and little white tiger was not by her side. She would be dead meat if she encountered some monster from this mystical realm. Time passed slowly. Yi Qingtang was extremely vigilant, hiding within the shadows. She fixed her eyes upon the entrance of the cave, her hand already firmly grasping her sword. A black figure suddenly flashed past the entrance of the cave. Before Yi Qingtang could ready herself, that black figure retreated from the entrance. That thing flashed past again but didn't attack the hidden Yi Qingtang. Even so, Yi Qingtang didn't dare to let down her guard. She was drenched in cold sweat from anxiety. They had already been too careless before. Little white tiger's earlier suspicion was probably accurate. There really was something outside the cave watching them. However, what was it? Why had it not attacked them yet? Yi Qingtang was full of doubt, but also slightly relieved. It was certainly no normal being if it could evade little white tiger's detection. Although Yi Qingtang didn't know why it had yet to attack them, she did not dare to continue staying in this cave. No matter what, they had to leave immediately after little white tiger returned. As she waited, Yi Qingtang continued hiding in the shadows. She did not move a single step, nor were there any more strange noises from the outside. The black figure didn't appear again. But somehow, Yi Qingtang had a feeling that the thing was still there. It could be hiding right outside the cave as it had over the past few days, crouching in the darkness and watching their every move. The thought sent a chill down her spine. A long time passed and Yi Qingtang's hands had already gone white from the cold. A familiar voice finally echoed through the cave. "Don't worry, I had a look outside and there are no monsters around. Don't you think that's strange?" Little white tiger shook off the snow accumulated on its body. Having been pursued by several monsters for some time, little white tiger couldn't help but find it rather strange that there were no monsters at all when it scouted the area. The monsters here are not that easily detected. Moreover, you are not human. Those monsters might not take the initiative to attack you. Yi Qingtang didn't dare to let her guard down even though little white tiger had returned safely. This mystic realm was created by the true gods to punish humans. All the curses were targeted at humans. As little white tiger was not human, those monsters might not proactively attack it. However, this was merely conjecture on Yi Qingtang's part. "Well, shall we wait here a couple more days then? Wait until you are better?" Little white tiger questioned. Yi Qingtang shook her head. "Let's leave now." Little white tiger looked perplexed. Did she feel that it was not safe outside? Why then? Little white tiger was about to ask but saw Yi Qingtang glancing at the cave entrance before shooting little white tiger a meaningful look. The beast's heart gave a slight jolt. My intuition was correct. Chapter 1729, Being Watched, 3, Yi Qingtang nodded. A cold chill seemed to spread throughout little white tiger's body. Damn, and it thought it was being paranoid. It never expected there was really something outside watching them. Given the situation, little white tiger didn't dare to hesitate any longer. It picked up Yi Qingtang and dashed out of the cave. Yi Qingtang clung onto little white tiger's back. She had yet to fully recover and had no choice but to let little white tiger carry her. But before they had even traveled over 100 meters, Yi Qingtang instinctively turned back to glance at the cave. She saw that the black figure had been hiding under the snow, and it suddenly charged toward them. The black figure was very fast, so fast that Yi Qingtang could not see what it was. That thing seemed to be targeting Yi Qingtang and little white tiger. With its agility, it was soon right on their tail. Damn, is that thing following us? Little white tiger could feel something terrifying behind them and catching up at a fast pace. Don't stop. Yi Qingtang furrowed her brows. She could see that the black figure was quickly approaching. Even little white tiger's full speed seemed slow in comparison. In both her previous and current lives, Yi Qingtang had never seen something that could match the speed of that black figure. How many more types of these terrifying creatures existed in this mystic realm? Nevertheless, just as Yi Qingtang and little white tiger were panicking over the black figure behind them, a series of web-like cracks appeared on the glacier in front of them. In the next second, water gushed out of those cracks and morphed into numerous giant ice wolves. Shit. Each of those giant wolves were 3 meters in height and possessed sharp icy fangs and malevolent eyes. Mighty howls emitted from their wide, bloodthirsty jaws. Damn, there are dangers everywhere. This place is relentless. Little white tiger exclaimed when it saw the pack of giant ice wolves charging toward them. Those giant ice wolves emitted waves of powerful aura as mighty as that of a Paragon-level practitioner. What kind of joke was this? Over a dozen Paragon-level giant ice wolves, any one of which could easily tear little white tiger and Yi Qingtang into pieces. Moreover, there was also some strange creature pursuing them from behind. They were dead meat. Yi Qingtang's heart sank all the way to the bottom. Her breathing seemed to stop as she watched the pack of giant ice wolves charging her way. But just as that pack of giant ice wolves was about to pounce at Yi Qingtang, a tremendous demonic aura suddenly surged from behind her. That demonic aura passed over Yi Qingtang and little white tiger, heading straight towards the pack of giant ice wolves. The giant ice wolves seemed to suffer an immense blow the moment that demonic aura made contact. With wretched howls, they stopped dead in their tracks, before standing there shivering and whimpering. It was like some powerful force was holding them there. Yi Qingtang stared at the shivering pack of giant ice wolves and confusion flashed past her eyes. Her heart quivered as she observed the demonic aura that permeated the air. Chapter 1730, Little Heavenly Demon, 1. She instinctively turned back to look. A pitch-black little thing was a few meters behind her. It was standing upon the snowy grounds and exuding a demonic aura that was intensely suffocating. That aura radiated in all directions continuously, completely suppressing the pack of giant ice wolves. Little white tiger turned to take a look, and that one glance scared it so much that its eyeballs bulged out in an almost comical manner. A little thing surrounded by black demonic aura such that no one could see what it looked like. The only feature that could be seen through that aura was a pair of devilish eyes. Damn, is that a heavenly demon? Little white tiger widened its eyes in disbelief. Heavenly demon? Yi Qingtang was stunned. Apart from a heavenly demon, who else could exude such a powerful and pure demonic aura? But why is there still a heavenly demon over here? Moreover, it seems to be helping us? Little white tiger narrowed its eyes suspiciously. Yi Qingtang would never have thought that it was a heavenly demon who was watching them from outside the cave. But the legends claimed that they only existed in. To be exact, it is a little heavenly demon. Look at its size, it seems to be a newborn. Little white tiger sized up the little heavenly demon as he speculated. Little heavenly demon, why is it helping us? Yi Qingtang stared at those devilish eyes. How would I know? Perhaps it feels that we are its prey and will not allow other monsters to touch us? Or perhaps it likes us better? Little white tiger also didn't understand. Would a heavenly demon take a fancy toward a human and a beast? Yi Qingtang felt it was more likely that the heavenly demon was just reserving them for later. Regardless, she was completely despondent at the thought. Being targeted by a heavenly demon was 10 times worse than being targeted by an ice king. On the other hand, it was still a baby heavenly demon. But a heavenly demon was as powerful as a true god. Could they have any hopes of defending themselves against it? No matter what, at least it has no intention of killing us. For now. Let's hurry up and leave. The heavenly demon has no likes, dislikes, happiness or sadness. No one can guess their temperament. Gazing at the pack of giant ice wolves, little white tiger didn't dare to stay a minute longer. It flew off carrying Yi Qingtang. Who knew why that little heavenly demon had its eye on them? The little heavenly demon stared after Yi Qingtang and little white tiger as they left. Its eyes seemed to narrow uneasily, and in the blink of an eye, it continued to follow them at a frightening pace. Damn, why is it following us again? Little white tiger could clearly feel the demon aura behind it and broke out in cold sweat. This little heavenly demon truly had its eye on them. Yi Qingtang was also at a loss. She turned to see the fast approaching demonic aura, only to discover that although it was following them, it had no intention of catching up. As fast as it was, it maintained a few meters gap behind them. Perhaps because of the little heavenly demon and its thick demon aura, the powerful monsters nearby had all backed off? Yi Qingtang's journey ended up being very smooth sailing. After flying for a long time, the sky was gradually darkening and little white tiger had to find a glacier to stop and rest. Chapter 1731, Little Heavenly Demon, 2. When Yi Qingtang and little white tiger finally stopped, the little heavenly demon also stopped. It stood there unmoving, several meters away from Yi Qingtang. Under the yellow evening light, Yi Qingtang could only make out those bright, demonic eyes. They remained fixed upon herself. But somehow, Yi Qingtang felt that those eyes did not possess any ill intentions. It was just watching her. For what? Just how long is this little heavenly demon going to follow us? Is it going to kill us or let us go? It should just do it already. Little white tiger did not like having the attention of this little heavenly demon. Yi Qingtang sighed softly. She did not understand either, but this little heavenly demon did not seem to have any intention of attacking them. This was good enough. Anyway, Yi Qingtang knew very well that if this little heavenly demon wanted to kill them, both little white tiger and her would be no match at all. As a result, she might as well just relax. She took out some rations from her space ring and started to eat. Yi Qingtang had just taken a couple of bites when she realized that the little heavenly demon was moving again. It suddenly started to edge toward Yi Qingtang. Those demon eyes were fixed upon the half-eaten rations in Yi Qingtang's hands. Those eyes started to sparkle. Yi Qingtang, she moved the field rations in her hand from side and side and discovered that the little heavenly demon's eyes were tracking its movement. There was even a sliver of desire in those eyes. Was it hungry? Yi Qingtang suddenly recalled that the first time this little heavenly demon made an appearance was when she took out some food while inside the cave. A suspicion surfaced in Yi Qingtang's mind. She tossed the rations in her hand toward the little heavenly demon. The field rations were still in midair when the little heavenly demon pounced toward it. Opening its wide jaws full of sharp teeth, it gobbled up the rations whole. It was really hungry. Yi Qingtang felt like her world had just turned upside down. A powerful heavenly demon was interested in common human food? Was it just teasing her? After swallowing the field rations, the little heavenly demon actually reached out its tongue and licked its lips in satisfaction. Its eyes continued to stare at Yi Qingtang. I think you'd better feed it until it is full. Otherwise, we might become its food instead. Little white tiger couldn't help shivering when it looked at the little heavenly eye's greedy eyes. Yi Qingtang was silent. She immediately searched through her own space ring. Luckily, she had prepared a lot of food in her space ring and had yet to consume much of it since entering the mystic realm, so there was still a lot left. Yi Qingtang took out a big piece of dried meat from her space ring. After tearing off a section, she tossed it toward the little heavenly demon. Before the meat landed on the ground, little heavenly demon once again pounced forward and caught it deftly in its mouth. It looked very satisfied after eating. Yi Qingtang didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. The high and mighty heavenly demon clan produced such a greedy little creature? Nevertheless, as amused as she was, Yi Qingtang still obediently tossed the rest of the dried meat to the little heavenly demon. Chapter 1732, Little Heavenly Demon, 3. The little heavenly demon gobbled it all up. Perhaps it was feeling more cordial after eating. The little heavenly demon started approaching Yi Qingtang. With the dim firelight, Yi Qingtang finally saw the true form of the little heavenly demon. It was a dragon-shaped heavenly demon, only about as high as Yi Qingtang's calf. Its black scales glimmered under the firelight with its short, thick back legs firmly planted on the ground. Meanwhile, it also had a little round belly and tiny front paws, making it look rather adorable. If not for the fact that it was a heavenly demon, Yi Qingtang might have just pulled it into her arms for a cuddle. Meanwhile, the little heavenly demon had no idea what Yi Qingtang was thinking. It tilted its head and gazed at Yi Qingtang. A short, thick dragon's tail protruded from its butt, which wagged from side to side now and then. After seeing that Yi Qingtang was no longer taking out anything more to eat, the little heavenly demon waddled over to Yi Qingtang and gazed up at her. Then it used its little tail to brush her calf. It opened its tiny mouth and whined piteously. Yi Qingtang, little white tiger, was also dumbfounded. It had never seen such a greedy heavenly demon. Yi Qingtang had no choice but to take out more food. She knelt down on the ground and tossed it one by one into the little heavenly demon's mouth. In response, the little heavenly demon gave a contented expression. Those demon eyes narrowed in satisfaction as it chewed. As it ate, the little heavenly demon suddenly sneezed. It sniffed about Yi Qingtang's body, and that familiar smell relaxed it. It had found her earlier because of her familiar scent. Gurgle! The little heavenly demon gurgled happily before suddenly throwing itself into Yi Qingtang's arms. It wriggled about to find a comfortable position and soon fell asleep. Once it did, it even started to snore. Yi Qingtang stared at the little heavenly demon sleeping in her arms and then at little white tiger. Why do I feel, little white tiger narrowed its eyes. It seems to treat you like its family member? What the hell? Yi Qingtang was dumbfounded. Don't you possess the mutated heavenly demon bloodline? If I am not wrong, it must have detected the scent of that bloodline. It looks like a newborn and there aren't any other heavenly demons around. So you may be the first familiar smell it has encountered. If that's the case, it is only natural that it treats you as family. Luckily they were not just backup food for the little demon. The corners of Yi Qingtang's lips twitched. But gazing down at the sleeping little heavenly demon, she felt all sorts of conflicted emotions. This little heavenly demon was a dragon-shaped demon. It looked very much like a real dragon, and she couldn't help being reminded of her little lightning dragon. But, after little Yu Yun was taken away, all life in the first domain had vanished. Even little lightning dragon had disappeared. You were gravely injured and lost a lot of blood while we were heading to that cave. I guess that was when it detected the heavenly demon scent in your blood and made its way toward you. I was wondering why it kept following us, as if we are its family. This is just a newborn heavenly demon, and it has no idea how to recognize the true members of its own kind. As he said this, little white tiger glanced at little heavenly demon again, no longer as concerned as before. Chapter 1733, Attack from Both Sides, 1. Yi Qingtang gazed at the sleeping little heavenly demon in wonder. I feel that this is a good thing. If this little heavenly demon thinks you are family, the rest of our journey will be much smoother. Little white tiger grinned. The horrors of the mystic realm they had seen so far were just the tip of the iceberg. No one knew for sure just how many more terrifying creatures and dangers awaited them. But with little heavenly demon around, they need not be so afraid. Remember those giant ice wolves? They couldn't even move after seeing this little fellow. Do you know what I mean? Little white tiger shot Yi Qingtang a meaningful look. Yi Qingtang, perhaps due to little heavenly demon's presence, they had not encountered any monsters for some time. Yi Qingtang had been so tense for so long that her already fatigued body was even more weak and frail now. Anyway, since this little fellow wanted to stick to her, there was no need to think too much about the rest for now. Yi Qingtang leaned against little white tiger's soft fur and soon fell asleep. It was the most peaceful sleep she had enjoyed since stepping onto the frozen ice fields. Yi Qingtang was sound asleep when sunlight shone across the icy lands. Even so, she could vaguely feel a moist warmth on her fingertips. She slowly opened her eyes and was momentarily taken aback by what she saw. Little heavenly demon had awoken and was happily nestled in her arms, nibbling away at her finger with the space ring. It was also wagging its tail happily. Yi Qingtang kept silent. Was the little heavenly demon hungry again? She had taken out food from her space ring in front of the little heavenly demon yesterday. That little fellow seemed to have misunderstood something. Worried that the greedy little heavenly demon might accidentally chew off her finger, Yi Qingtang immediately sat up and gently pushed the demon's head aside. Little heavenly demon looked very unhappy at being pushed aside. Its demonic eyes filled with crystal-clear tears as it stroked its own belly sadly while hugging its tail. It gazed piteously at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang's heart was instantly engulfed by a strong sense of guilt. You are a heavenly demon. Why are you acting all cute and pitiful? Aren't you giving heavenly demons a bad name? Despite all those thoughts, Yi Qingtang still obediently retrieved a large amount of food from her space ring and piled it in front of the little heavenly demon. In a flash, little heavenly demon's eyes sparkled as it flung its own tail aside and dived head first into the sea of food. Its two short paws were hard at work, shoving the food straight into its wide-open mouth. Looking at that behavior, Yi Qingtang really felt like it had a bottomless pit for an appetite. It must be pointed out that the amount of food it was consuming was several times more than its own size. As little heavenly demon was happily eating away, Yi Qingtang was already surveying their surroundings. After all, she couldn't hang around this area forever. She would have to move on if she wanted to leave. Yi Qingtang tidied up and was prepared to continue her journey. Little heavenly demon noticed Yi Qingtang had climbed onto little white tiger's back again, ready to leave. With another sweep of its paw, it shoved the rest of the food into its mouth. Cheeks bulging with food, it trotted on its two short legs over to little white tiger's side. Without further ado, the little heavenly demon then clambered onto little white tiger and settled down in Yi Qingtang's arms. Chapter 1734, Attack from Both Sides, 2. Woo! Little heavenly demon sat down firmly with its cheeks bulging so much that it had to hold them with its paws. A tuft of little white tiger's fur was still lodged in one of its claws. Little white tiger, damn, if not for the fact that it couldn't defeat this heavenly demon, little white tiger would already have tossed that little punk onto the floor and stomped on it for tugging on its fur. Yi Qingtang felt both amused and exasperated at little heavenly demon's clingy behavior. She held it tightly before patting little white tiger, indicating that it should start moving. Grumbling somewhat, little white tiger finally started to move after a bit of reluctance. Their journey was relatively calm and peaceful. Yi Qingtang observed several mid-sized monsters eyeing them from the sides. They all paused before scurrying away. Those monsters must have detected little heavenly demon's demon aura. Somehow, the greedy little heavenly demon had become their protector. But its appetite was astounding. Mountains of food had already been stuffed into its belly, but it remained unsatiated. It kept staring piteously at Yi Qingtang, which induced her to subconsciously reach into her space ring. By now, her supply of food was nearing the bottom. Just as Yi Qingtang was still quietly marveling at little heavenly demon's appetite, there was a tremor in the valley in front of them. Countless shards of ice scattered down from the mountain tops, and some of them landed on little heavenly demon's nose. Curious, it licked at them but then frowned at the chilly feeling. Roar! An earth-shattering beastly howl suddenly echoed through the valley. Yi Qingtang's brows furrowed. She could clearly feel a powerful aura emanating from behind those ice mountains. It was a mighty force, and the nearer they were, the more clearly she could feel it. Yi Qingtang was about to get Little White Tiger to make a detour, but just as they switched directions, a huge shadow stood up from behind that ice mountain. It was a giant humanoid beast with an ugly face and rotting boils covering its entire body. Even from a distance, they could smell the evil stench it exuded. Troll! Yi Qingtang's eyes widened when she saw this monster, which was even bigger than an ice mountain. Sometime in the past, Yi Qingtang had seen this type of monster once. It was during her earlier visit to the two-star constellation. But she had just seen a picture of it then, and had never witnessed one in real life. Even within the two-star constellation, trolls were monsters which only existed in legends. They had been extinct for thousands of years. However, why was there a troll here now? Yi Qingtang was very puzzled, but it was not the time now to ponder such mysteries. The troll was one of the strongest and mightiest monsters. Even the hardest rock would crumble like soft tofu in its hands. In addition, trolls were naturally violent and combative. At this point, the troll was standing at full height. It took one leisurely step and completely flattened the ice mountain right in front of Yi Qingtang's very eyes. Countless ice shards scattered in all directions and accumulated snow gushed out like ocean waves. Little White Tiger quickly leaped into the air and dodged the impending avalanche. But in doing so, it caught the eye of the troll. Roar! The troll's green eyes suddenly discovered Yi Qingtang and the others. Roaring with agitation, it raised a giant axe covered in spikes and charged straight at them. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.